Biden's up in Ohio.
Oh, that's good. All right, folks. Pull that music down for a sec. Hey, folks, just want to remind you that as I eat on a little bit of apple and that this 12-hour edition could be more of the Majority Report, brought to you by SunsetLakeCBD.com. The guys at Sunset Lake CBD have started off, well, they still are, a dairy farm up in Vermont, outside of Burlington. Their milk went to, or still does, go to Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Apparently, they tell me also that the business practice of Ben & Jerry is still pretty good. And a couple years ago, they made a decision to diversify, start growing hemp. They do so with 100% pesticide free. They use integrated pest management. So they actually introduce like natural predators into their crops. And that's the way that they deal with pests. They're 100% organic in what they use for fertilizer. They have great business practices, $15 minimum wage up in Burlington, Vermont. They have the company is a majority employee owned. And on top of that, their CBD is fantastic. They are now introducing, right now, they have a sale on 2 new strains, I guess. One is Server, which is at 18.9% CBD. That's nearly 20% for you math deficient people. It is the most potent hemp flower strain that Sunset Lake CBD has ever grown. And they're very careful to maintain the aroma and the potency. It is a strain that is super special. And apparently they also have the sour special sauce, which is got a little bit less CBD, 16.6, but it is one of the rarest flowers on the market. And it has a very distinct, I guess, aroma and earthy tones that is a function of the soil. Like you're drinking a wine, you can taste the sort of the different elements that might be in the soil. Maybe it's close to the ocean. It's a little more salty. There's more minerals, whatever it is. But,
yes, I watched Sideways 2 weekends ago.
Oh, well, there you go.
For the first time. Very good.
Remind me to tell you about the time that the first pilot I ever did, or the second one, was with Paul Giamatti.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I would love to hear about that.
Anyways, you can get those 2 strains for 25% off when you use VOTE25 coupon code at SunsetLakeCBD.com. But as always, you can use Left is Best for 20% off of their CBD gummies, the tinctures, which are great for sleeping for me, and I think just general calmness, as we saw Matthew Film Guy at the beginning of the night was hitting it, I think. Also smokables. They've got all sorts of different buds and flowers and pre-rolls, and the topical salve, which you should not eat. That we leave that for David Feldman. You saw what it did to him, but when you rub it on, it makes you feel good. So check it out, SunsetLakeCBD.com. They have been great sponsors of this program, and it is a product that I use virtually every day. So I feel very, very comfortable promoting it. SunsetLakeCBD.com. And of course, also a thank you to Free Range Brooklyn.com, which sent us over a bunch of booze, and I'm trying to pace myself.
I have some white wine in here.
There you go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh,
there we go.
You.
Wine. Yeah.
That is a very refined glass.
I know.
For you, Jamie.
I'm teaching myself about wine, so I had to buy a real nice Wine Mom glass.
Yeah.
You should talk to my sister about that. That she's
good with wine.
What the heck is that?
Oh my God. My cat's being a real see you next Tuesday.
Wow.
She wants to be on TV.
Oh, I didn't realize that was in the foreground. I thought that cat was behind you, and I thought that was that looked like a...
It's a very dark cat.
Yeah, very dark. All right. So do we have Alex Perrine?
I
guess we don't.
Some news.
No, here he comes.
Oh.
Well, Alex Perrine will be here for this news. Apparently,
it's not real news, but in a win for comedy, Louis Gohmert has won re-election.
Oh.
And Ohio, I mentioned this earlier. I might have been off air. Ohio with 65 to 78% of votes in. Again, the decision desk range is just ridiculous, but Biden's up 51% to Trump's 48%.
Alex Perrine.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Whoa.
I'm vibing.
I don't know. I don't know if I know what that means. Which vibe are you vibing? Can you just be? Is there like a general? Like, can you generally vibe, or is there like a specific vibe that you have to have when you're vibing?
One can generally vibe. I think one can generally vibe.
Been doing some drugs off your I voted today
winner
sticker.
of Delaware.
The winner of Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking.
All right. How
Cool.
much? Thanks, Delaware.
Yeah.
It's great because, like, if Joe Biden wins in this election, I'll be like, fine, cool, I feel nothing. And that's like the best case scenario.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not necessarily. I mean, I would be happy for a Donald Trump loss, and I don't need to be happy for a Joe Biden win to be happy for Donald Trump loss.
Happy anniversary, Sam.
Thank you. I always pick the best days.
I love
a year ago, not a year ago, but it was I think it was close to a year ago, actually. It must have been a year ago because we were talking about, I was like, hey, we've got to be close to the anniversary of when the show was.
Yeah.
And then we realized, like, oh my God,
It's gonna be
on election day.
It's gonna be on.
And this is where my head was. This is a sign that Bernie's going to win. Like
Absolutely.
the culmination of, like, of course, like, it was a fairly narcissistic perspective on this,
But it was like
you always think about like these hocus pocusy stuff.
Oh no, yeah. I wear like a specific Giants t-shirt before they play games.
Well,
I have no control.
This is everything lining up. I mean, this is going to validate so much.
It's going to be 10 years. Yeah, right. It's going to be like
where Bernie Sanders wins
right.
on
and then
the 10-year anniversary of the show.
The headlines are going to say, Sam did it.
Hadn't carried it out that far. But we had, and I was like, Brendan, we got to do a show. And like, it was actually like the most, Brendan, wouldn't you say that in terms of like my inability to plan ahead, it was like by far the most forward thinking I've ever been in anything I've ever done on this show you've been associated with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
magnitude is like, it's not even possible to calculate. The idea of 12 months out, that's nuts.
the scale is incomprehensible, really. So, yeah, no, we had it all booked at the Bell House. It was going to be great.
Oh man, I would love to be at the Bell House right now. My God, I would love to be at the Bell House right now.
So with that said,
New Jersey, you can smoke weed there now. There you go.
well,
it's official?
It's. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's official, but I'm pretty sure I saw the
My home state.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't there a ballot measure for therapeutic psilocybin going on too in a state?
Oh, I remember that. Was
Right
that
now?
Washington? I think it was Washington. I think it was Washington D.C. Not Washington State. Washington D.C. I think.
Well, I'm pulling for the shrooms, obviously.
we may need them quite a bit.
Yeah, they're therapeutic.
Ugh. Can't imagine doing psychedelic drugs right now. It sounds horrible amidst a pandemic.
DC.
That's
In
because you're
Washington,
weak.
we're all going to Washington D.C. We're going to U Street, and we're gonna do mushrooms together.
Let's go to the Lincoln Memorial and see hallucinate Nixon.
Talk about vibes.
All right. So we should say that Fox News says that Biden is a heavy favorite in North Carolina. That was 2 minutes ago.
The Fox Needle.
And now I cannot access the New York Times app to yell at the needle, right? So I don't know.
I mean, I think, I'll tell you this. I feel in myself, I was just telling this to Emma, I feel in myself a inclination to take the least optimistic view of what's happening right now because so burned in 2016, right around this time too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is when like I remember we started feeling like our guts dropping, and Florida was not supposed to go the way that it did, and I don't know. I sort of feel like that with North Carolina. I mean, North Carolina, it felt like Biden was going to win North Carolina,
Right.
like it wasn't going to be a nail biter.
I was saying to a friend earlier today that after 2016, I sort of said I'm relieved to write off Florida and Ohio, because I do not think we will have to care about Florida and Ohio again for a while. And so I have never been particularly convinced that Florida was a lock, but North Carolina, I sort of put in the Virginia category of like, these are one of those southern states that in our era Democrats will win in. So I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. The latest numbers in North Carolina now, over 95% for North Carolina. Biden is up by 25,000 votes. Union County is still not in. In 2016, that was a 33,000 net gain for Trump. It starting to feel like North Carolina is going to come down to like tens of thousands of votes.
Yeah.
Phew.
Yep.
Just to add to the vibes here, Green is talking about, Dave Weigel tweeted out 28 minutes ago, getting 2018 vibes tonight. Starting with Florida breaking to the GOP, continue with D's gaining in Midwest burbs. Even if Trump wins Ohio, Biden's already ahead of Clinton's raw vote in places like Delco, Columbus burbs, and Medina, outskirts of Cleveland. So, I don't know. Apparently, Levitt seems to think the Mason-Dixon line is a pretty big factor in how tonight's going to go.
Okay.
Has CBS called? Can we double check on this? What CBS says now about North Carolina?
What are they saying?
Not good things. But let's somebody go over to CBS.
Looking.
Oy, 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 oy.
I'm hearing there's an all-new episode of Star Trek Discovery, Season 3, available now.
Is that right? You're looking at CBS Entertainment. I'm hearing good things about the good fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think, we talked about this the other day, like, Alex, we had not sort of like spent too much time contemplating a Trump administration. It's a lot.
Yeah.
You don't have to start the ground running in the same way that you do with the Biden administration on some level, which is like, which I think is, why I want a Biden administration as opposed to a Trump one, because with a Biden administration, you want to get in early to set the trajectory.
Yeah.
As opposed to a Trump administration where it's like, it's not a question of setting the trajectory at all for the Trump administration. You have no impact whatsoever on it. Really has to do with just basically stuff on the outside. You're not going to influence anything that happens in there, and it's all defensive. And there's just no way, it's like volleyball in that respect. You can stop them from scoring, but you can't score yourself unless you have the ball for serving.
Yeah, I mean,
anybody in the impression that I play a lot of volleyball? I don't.
I was not. I was not. I mean, despite that misinformation, I did not believe you are a volleyball player. But
so tight in North Carolina right now.
Yeah.
Both with the Cunningham and the Cunningham-Tillis race and the Biden-Trump race, and no Union County is in there. There's less than 4,000 difference now. We don't know what's extant, but 5%. I mean, how much could 5% be?
I mean, it coming down to Union County is not
good. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No, I was saying, like, I wrote one of our pre-write Trump victory things, and we'll see if it runs. But in sort of doing the thought exercise of imagining another Trump term. It's basically just like you can't even really like. So on the one hand, you have to imagine all of the sort of factors that led to the victory, but then when you imagine what they'll do, it's really just like they have sort of signaled that they're going to be fixated on ridding the administrative state of critical race theory and like not actually doing anything that accounts for any of the various things in America that need addressing, right? Like they're really just going to be sort of fixated on purging the federal government and ignoring everything else. So, there's a lot of time left, but we'll see. We'll see if we're just in for a purge.
Anybody else hearing static, or is that just me?
Yeah, I can't tell whose mic that
is. That from me? I don't know if that.
That's better.
It's gone.
It's better. What were you doing? You?
I didn't do anything. I did nothing. So
I think that was my computer overheating.
Oh, was?
Yeah.
That was your fan going.
That was a fan. Yeah.
You're really giving that thing a workout.
Are you gaming? Are you gaming at like 150 frames per second right now?
Brendan's doing his own Twitch stream right now, where he's playing.
Yeah, me and Brendan are playing 7 Days to Die.
I gotta hop off for a little bit, but good luck, guys.
I've got my 1440p stream.
See you, Jamie.
See you, Jamie.
All right, see you, Jamie. Very nice to see you.
You too.
Oh wait, Alex, did you say hi to Emma?
Hey,
did that happen?
No, hi.
very informal hello. But
Emma
I don't
has joined the show.
I don't need a grand coronation, but I do appreciate the effort.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you're going to get one anyways. There you are. Well, I mean, this is, I wanted it to be a little bit different. We don't have a sense of like really what's going to happen with the Senate at this point. Hickenlooper's in. That's good.
Yeah.
Cory Gardner. I imagine that we're going to see, we should hear something about Susan Collins soon, right? I would think.
Right.
I was wondering about Collins because I haven't heard a single thing about Collins.
The decision desk has only 10.3% in. I'm looking at, and Trump is ahead, but and I need an account as well. So,
and I think I saw that the Democratic House majority has. I think we all knew it was safe, but I think it might even be expanded.
Right.
Which would, it's like that's. What bizarre results, if what we're looking at now, to expand the Democratic House, and then not retake the Senate, I don't know. I don't know what
crazy
you do
because
about
those
that.
seats are, gerrymandered.
Yeah, they are.
Tom Tillis is up now 500 votes in North Carolina.
Someone just texted me that said Trump's odds shifted from underdog to minus 260, meaning he's a massive favorite.
Yeah, the betting markets have shifted.
Oh, yeah, the betting markets are full of morons. But,
no, I get it.
But yes, that's still...
I see something like this Tillis Cunningham thing, and I get very worried because polling had him up consistently.
Yep.
By 5-6 points. We just got I am about where are we on mail-in ballots in Florida and in North Carolina. These ballots are counted as they come in.
Right.
So there are no extant ballots. We're going to go through another round of like, why was the polling so wrong in North Carolina? I didn't see any polls that said these guys were close. Did you?
No, I didn't. And I think 538 did a video that was like, if we adjust the polling so that it's just as wrong as it was in 2016, even in that case, I think North Carolina was still a Biden state. I think even if the polls are just as wrong in the exact same way as they were in 2016, and presumably the pollsters have adjusted for whatever mistakes they made last time. North Carolina was.
That means that the polling is off even more this time.
Yeah, which makes absolutely no sense. I don't really know how that could be. I mean, I don't know how that would happen because I've been assuming they've been overcorrecting for whatever screw ups they made last time.
Correct. That's what everybody, and that's what, people have been saying. But maybe not. I'm just going over to the real cold politics. The polling with the Cunningham. Now, Reuters had its latest poll was Cunningham +2. CNBC had Cunningham +4.
Right.
So maybe it was, and that was on, yesterday. On Sunday, Emerson had Cunningham +3. I mean, so it definitely seems to have been closing, right?
Yeah.
The gap. CNN had Cunningham at 3 on the 31st. NBC News had Cunningham at 10 on the 30th. Rasmussen had him at 3. East Carolina U had him at 1. There's not a single poll that had Tillis ahead. Now, Cunningham, I guess now, I'm looking at these polls, and he was 3-4 points.
Yeah.
1 point. I mean, I guess he didn't have a commanding lead in this past week, but nevertheless, and maybe it's just this is where it was trending. I don't know. And it just crested right in time.
Right.
But that's also sort of bizarre insofar as that, like, how many of these votes were already cast?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right. It's one thing to take the narrative of 2016 and say, all of these people who decided at the very last minute decided for Trump. But like, there's been much less last minute deciding this time around. People have been voting for a while now.
I mean, the polls are just simply seem to be just have the wrong perception of who's voting
of who showed up. Yeah.
Yes, and maybe they're just wrong in North Carolina, but okay. According to Peter Hamby, the host of Good Luck America, Vanity Fair, CNN vet, claims that Biden is on track to flip Wood County. Looking good in Lucas. That's in Ohio.
Okay.
Aaron,
so is he still out? Is he still like outperforming in Ohio? I don't think I've seen any. I haven't checked.
He's down right now in Ohio.
But he's outperforming Clinton, right?
I'm not sure.
I can tell you that we spoke to Josh Horton, who is still seems to be bullish on the upper Midwest. And so, maybe it's just a strategy of going after that Rust Belt. But we'll see.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. Ugh. Not looking forward to.
I mean, imagine if Trump hadn't, or there wasn't COVID.
Yeah, I know. He would have destroyed him.
Totally.
It would have been a big problem.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we've talked about this a little, but it was a tremendous boon to the Joe Biden campaign that being the guy who stays at home was suddenly, not to like borrow the sort of Trump description of Biden's campaigning, but it was true that like the guy who once you couldn't have events anymore, that sort of helped.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah, no, that was definitely, I mean, Meanwhile, Ohio, this could be sort of a, blue wall type of situation where we sort of reverting in some respects.
I mean, that would be insane to me. I've just been reminiscing about.
You didn't have to worry about Ohio.
No, exactly. I was just talking to some friends about how I spent election 2004 in Ohio canvassing in the rain, terrible day, and literally it was like, okay, Ohio's like is a state that votes for Republicans for president now, and I don't have to care about it anymore. But we'll see.
Meanwhile, I'm seeing people talk about the Amy McGrath race, which was $100 million at least.
Jesus. Decision Desk. Sorry to interrupt you. Go on.
No, you go on.
I mean, they have 99% in.
I can't hear you for some reason.
Sorry. 99% in, it seems like. 49.5% for Biden, 49.33% for Trump.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
They have 99% in.
Yep.
Is that what that says? 49.5% for Biden, 49.33% for Trump.
49.5% better.
Right. Union County.
What's that?
Still nothing for Union County, and I'm talking to people in North Carolina, and they don't know what's up.
I haven't. Yeah, I can't click on Decision Desk because I don't have a subscription. But.
My God. I mean, it sounds like North Carolina is going to be a recount situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is their? So they counted all of the mail. They have already counted the mail-in ballots in North Carolina, and then is that an automatic recount?
I don't know, but maybe we should start to look into that. See what the rule is in North Carolina in terms of like what the difference is. To trigger a recount. And, again, North Carolina, I mean, you talk about sort of the heart of voter suppression in the wake of the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. But still.
Yeah.
Still sort of, that's Digby. Hold on for 1 second. Heather?
Yes, it is I.
Heather, welcome to the show, folks. Heather Parton, Digby from the blog Hullabaloo and also from salon.com. We've got Emma Vigland on the line here and Alex Perrine and myself and Terror. Sheer abject terror is also on the line.
And also Lindsey Graham officially won his race. So just some more bad news for right now.
So Heather, how are you feeling?
Well, I have to say, look, 2 years ago, I was on the line with you on the same show doing this about the same time of the night. And my recollection is that we were all panicking because the blue wave had not materialized. It was, the whole thing was a complete mirage. We were not going to win, and it was just another indictment of, the Democrats, our political system, et cetera, et cetera. And that was not how it turned out. And I said to you, even at the time, I said, everybody take a deep breath here and wait and see what happens. And, look, I don't know what people thought was going to happen. I think people assumed that because Donald Trump is a freakish monster on wheels, that there was no way that it was even going to be close this time. There's been a lot of talk about how, Biden was going to win Florida and he's going to win Texas and he's going to, there's going to be a big repudiation across the board of Trumpism and everything. We're going to reestablish America as being, the land of freedom and opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. And, I think that's just unrealistic. This country is still the country that elected Donald Trump. And if he is, thrown out of office this time, it's going to be by a hair. And that's why everybody's been talking about Pennsylvania, like, Pennsylvania is the center of the universe for the last month. That's why Joe Biden has been living in Wisconsin and Michigan and stopping off maybe a little bit in Ohio and spending all of his time in Pennsylvania, why the last week has been nothing but Pennsylvania, because they knew that that's what this was about. And I mean, I've been writing this for a long time, that, you know, if it comes down to Pennsylvania and we end up with some kind of a court case, this whole thing can indeed be thrown to the Supreme Court. This is not something that we shouldn't have been prepared for, because this was always what it was going to be. Now, maybe Biden will pick up Ohio in a fluke, or maybe Arizona. But the idea that he was going to sweep all these battleground states, I never thought was realistic, because I look around me and I see a country full of, you know, a bunch of yahoos driving around with Trump flags, gigantic Trump flags like they're members of ISIS, you know, on the freeways, running buses off the road. So, you know, I mean, are we surprised, really?
I mean, you know, right now with Cunningham going down, and no reason to expect that Georgia is going to be dramatically different from North Carolina. I guess what there was certainly a sense people are taking for granted that the Democrats are going to take the Senate, and I think there's that to me feels like that's in jeopardy.
Oh, it does. And I, to be honest with you, I never thought it was a given. It was just too tight, right? I mean, you know, I think they'll probably win Arizona. I mean, it looks good. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but that is always, Arizona's always felt to me like maybe that was one of the states that was getting ready to move, you know, and maybe Collins will go down. I mean, maybe, you know, that's also tight. But Georgia, I mean, Georgia's Georgia, guys. And, you know, this is not surprising to me. You know, Cunningham is a disappointment because I thought North Carolina was, you know, maybe kind of going the other way, or at least it would be close. But, you know, it just, the country is what the country is. And, you know, I'm not living in a world where North Carolina and Georgia are not, you know, red states. You know, maybe they're a little bit purple, tinged purple a little bit. But yeah, and it's going to be a big problem, because if Biden does pull this off, and I think that's, you know, that's not necessarily true, because like I said, if it comes down to Pennsylvania, which we always knew was a possibility, that is going to be a huge problem. Right. I mean, they are ready to fight that one down to every last vote. They will fight it with everything they have. And, you know, if it comes down to Pennsylvania, I don't know what will happen. But if Biden squeaks out that win, you know, without a Democratic Senate, you know, we're looking at a world that isn't all that different from the one we're in now. I mean, I shouldn't say that. That's not true. It's incredibly, you know, much more positive if Donald Trump is out of office. I mean, he alone is a terrible, pernicious horror on our body politic. But you know, the Republicans are the real problem. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. And I just, you know, if Mitch McConnell is still basically running the country, yeah, we've got a big problem on our hands. So, you know, everybody's going to have to rethink how you deal with that. And God knows, I do hope that a Joe Biden administration would understand that, you know, using the power of the presidency the way that Donald Trump has done is an absolute imperative. And I don't know if they understand that at all. I really don't.
The good news we have, and I agree with you, I never had Trump winning Florida or Georgia, because I didn't see that. But Biden is apparently leading by 10 in Maricopa County with early and absentee voters. So
that's good news.
That's good news, according to Nate Silver. So hopefully he can flip some suburbanites, some people, older white folks who have moved to Arizona and retired there, basically. I don't really know. And suburban voters, but that Arizona looking more critical now.
Yeah, wow. And I always thought it was going to be critical. It's funny because on the day before the election in 2016, I remember I wrote a piece for Salon, and I quoted Ron Brownstein, who's, you know, an excellent analyst of all this stuff, and he was saying, and what he said that day was, he said that the country is changing, and the Sun Belt is moving. It's becoming purple, and eventually is going to go blue. All these states that we're talking about now. And he said, I just don't know that Hillary Clinton, that it's going to happen this time. It just wasn't ready for her. It wasn't ready for a variety of reasons. It wasn't going to happen. So if you're a believer in fundamentals about demographics and the rest of that, Arizona's been on the agenda for a long time. And I think that the coronavirus crisis hit Arizona really hard this summer. And, there are a lot of old people there. And I think that part of what happened that made me think that Arizona might be ready to make that switch was because of that. I mean, but when you combine the Hispanic vote there, which is Mexican American, and that's a different Hispanic vote than you find in Florida. We've all talked about that endlessly, but it's, Mexican Americans have, a much different view of what's happened at the border with Donald Trump's border policy, with his immigration policy. It's really, they are not, Trump fans, let's put it that way. So, I think that between that and the youth, the younger Hispanics coming out to vote in Arizona, plus this older vote kind of looking at what happened with coronavirus over the summer, I've felt for a long time that was probably a state that was ready to go. And if that happens, I mean, that's one of the sort of fallback fail-safe states in case it does come down to Pennsylvania, right? And Ohio, weirdly enough. I don't know what's going to happen there, but it's looking much better than I expected. I never in a million years thought it would even be close there. So, that may be a sign of what's going on in that Rust Belt up there, where, by the way, give the Biden campaign some credit on this. They've been living there. And, they weren't taking it for granted. They were going to all those states in the last months, just basically spending, whatever time they had there and spending a boatload of money there. To try and secure that vote. So, we'll see what happens.
If they had been, hedging their bets in the way that the Clinton campaign never did, and saying, our internal polling is closer than the national polls.
Right.
So, which I appreciated because it showed a degree of humility that obviously Clinton never showed, but.
Exactly. And, and I think that was true. When Biden visited Minnesota this past week, it was like, I'm going, it's a kind of, oh my God, what are they seeing? But I think it was part of that. It was just kind of showing, and he even said it, Biden said, hey, look, I'm not taking any vote for granted up here. We're here, to get all you people out and what have you. Because I think they've always understood. I think that the polling, whatever we were thinking, and this is understandable, isn't it? I mean, Donald Trump is a monster. And how do we live in a country in which we accept and just sort of know that it's even close, that this man who he put babies, he ripped babies from their mother's arms at the border. He cut off immigration to Muslims. There are 230,000 Americans that are dead, many of which did not have to be dead because of his mismanagement. I mean, it just, the list goes on and on. This is even if Biden wins, this is still a depressing thing to recognize. And I think those of us who follow politics and do this every day, this is part of what's, kind of given us nightmares for years now. It's the idea that we live in a country.
I think his supporters are just going to go away after the election. We don't need to worry about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
yeah,
what I find.
Yeah, they don't have any investment in any of this.
What I find really interesting about this so far, and this is Alex Perry, by the way. Hello, Heather.
Hi, Alex. Nice to talk to you.
What I find really interesting is that I think that my prior assumption has been that this election would look like generic Democrat versus Donald Trump. And what is if and it's early still, but if it is true that he's overperforming in the industrial Midwest and underperforming in the Southeast, then it is actually the case that Joe Biden, the candidate, mattered a lot more than I thought he would. Like Joe Biden, the guy who was selected to say, I'll do good in Pennsylvania, mattered more. And then conversely, the person who was like, maybe I will do worse in Florida. Like I have been under the assumption that Biden was generic Democrat versus Trump. And if it is true that he's going to like outperform in Ohio and underperform in Florida, then I've been completely wrong about what people are voting based on.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I wouldn't have thought that either. I mean, I thought, I look at the country as a country, right? I mean, I just sort of look at it as there's certain, and I realize, there's all these regional differences and various demographics and the rest. But I had thought and Sam and I've talked about this a bunch, where it was like, there's rogue president and the other guy, and really it almost didn't matter who it was that was other guy.
That was
generic Democrat.
That's Biden's pitch, right? Is this is a referendum election period.
Right, and this is all about Trump, and whoever the other guy was, God knows he was going to be better than him, right? I mean, that was the idea. But you're right, Alex. If it turns out that Biden, that choosing Biden actually made very practical sense in terms of the Electoral College, which, by the way, can I just say, just for the record again, is total bullshit that we even have to have an election that deals with something like, the Electoral College, but we do. That was a wise choice. If he ends up, if it ends up being that Rust Belt decision again, that's where it's all at, and Biden can pull out just a little bit of a win in a place like Ohio that nobody expected in that particular thing, then that idea that the whole country has to look for someone who can appeal to the white, non-college educated working class male, who, some factory worker or something, that's what the decision had, that made sense. That was the decision that had to be. I mean, I find that just so, I don't know. I find it just so narrow. I mean, it's depressing because the working class in this country isn't that guy. I mean, that guy, he's, and I certainly have sympathy for him and, manufacturing and all the rest of it. But my God, the working class in this country are mostly a bunch of, women and men of color who are working in big urban centers, doing things like cleaning office buildings. That's the working class. And, working in big warehouses out in the middle of nowhere, getting ready to deliver Amazon packages. I mean, the idea that particular, it's sort of this romantic vision of the blue collar worker in America, if that turns out to really be what, the only thing we care about, well, again, depressing.
Right now, Trump has taken the lead in North Carolina by 30,000 votes. As far as I can tell, there is one county that has had no results, and that is Perquimans County. There was only 7,000 votes in 2016. Less than 7,000 votes. Trump won it with almost a 2,000 vote margin. It's tough to. That appears to be the only place where there is no results at this point. And
538, just some additional information about North Carolina. They basically are saying that the result of the early Democratic lead was the mail-in and early voting, and then it narrowed because of Republicans like expected. But late arriving mail ballots, Laura Bronner of 538 says, which may be more Democratic, could still shift the race. So there's still a lot to be determined. And once again, the Supreme Court, if this comes to North Carolina.
I mean, we're talking, let's say, I don't know how static this vote count is, and we don't know, obviously, in terms of those mail-in ballots. But, I mean, we're in like the 30, 50,000 vote range out of, 5.5 million votes. We're in the 1% range. I don't know what the recount situation is there, but again, if it is like, I don't know how many votes were cast mail in. If you can make up 30,000 votes, and it's also hard to tell, like, is 100% in? It says 90% on here.
Well, wasn't this? And I feel like I'm having to remember all of these things I was told to think about before Election Day, where it was when you read how many votes are in, does that count the mail-in ballots? Does it count?
Right.
know.
I also just have more good news about Maricopa County because I mentioned that Biden leads by 10 points, but that's 3/4 of its vote estimated to be counted. So
That's very encouraging.
very encouraging news. That means
Right.
that the 10 points isn't just some random mirage of, just early voting. The votes that are counted, 3/4 going.
For Maricopa.
Okay. Now,
Yes, Maricopa.
Josh Marshall just tweeted out 120,000 extant mail-in ballots to be counted in North Carolina.
In North Carolina.
I now look. I don't know if that's the case, but since
So
we're
Yeah.
since we're just like stuck
Again,
in this netherworld.
Like I said, I remember I read all these. I was a very careful news consumer before this, and I said everyone's going to say on election night, like, "Oh, we're going to have to wait for all these mail-in ballots, and we're not going to know. Like, you're just going to have to be accept not knowing." And then here we are. Let's continue panicking.
Well,
Can't help it.
I think the problem is that the problem is, of course, that the anniversary of the show.
The problem is the anniversary of the show. I would not be here.
I wouldn't have done the 12 hours for this. We would have started, an hour or two ago and been like, all right, well, we thought it wasn't going to happen.
We'll figure it out later.
We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Boom,
Yeah,
boom,
good night.
boom. No big deal. It's not like it's the anniversary of the show for 10 years. It just
Hey,
created
it's the
all this.
anniversary. It's my wedding anniversary. So
Happy
I'm sitting
anniversary.
here with you.
Oh, my God. Oh,
My
God.
husband's up in the other room getting drunk. So,
Just like the wedding night, right?
the night that I got married was the night that Newt Gingrich took over the house
Oh,
in
geez.
1994. So, that tells how old I am, but it also says that my marriage has been cursed from that moment on.
Well, I mean,
But like the Republican Revolution, it's been enduring.
Yes, it has. It has not gone away, and it probably never will. Certainly Newt Gingrich is still around, so I guess that says something. God, yeah. Well, my feeling is that, look, I mean, in fact, I wrote about this, and my editor told me, hey, could you just kind of tone it down a little bit? You sound hysterical. You're being, take a breath and whatever. But I'm going, look, this could easily come down to the Supreme Court. These states are going to be close. They call them battlegrounds for a reason, and there's a whole boatload of them. It's not just a few. There's a bunch. And if it gets like we're looking at North Carolina here, if this is this close, and it could tip the election, maybe even if it doesn't just tip the election, it could be one of those things where Donald Trump and the Republican National Lawyers Association, which does all their election, contesting, if they say, hey, it's worth it for us to just kind of get this up before the court. That's why they put Amy Coney Barrett on the court before the election. I mean, that was the express purpose of doing this, is to have all this, to muddle the results, to maybe, and to get the court to sort of say, hey, we've got to come to some kind of a decision here. We can't just let this go to the states. It's getting out of hand, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this could happen. This is Donald Trump's America that we're living in. So why would anybody think that couldn't happen? I don't understand.
That's not hysterical at all, because I think I remember the president basically saying that's what he wanted to happen.
Exactly. It's not like they've been keeping it under wraps. You know what I mean? I mean, so I don't understand. There's this idea that, come on, you people are being crazy and whatever. I'm going, have you been here for the last 4 years? Have you seen what we're living through?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, this kind of crazy is possible, and I will not be at all surprised if that's where we end up. I hope we don't. It'd be nice if Biden could take, Arizona, Ohio, and take the Rust Belt in Pennsylvania, decisively. Wouldn't that be great? But I'm not sitting here tonight going, oh my God, it's all falling apart, because this is kind of what I expected. Sorry.
No, I mean, that's better than where I was.
And I mean, we're in the
Supreme Court is better than just losing outright, right?
Well,
we've been talking about. I mean, I feel like, again, we're in the expected zone of outcomes we had read about before tonight, in the sense of, like, remember why we were all really worried about the Postal Service? Like, you know, if this is a 10,000 vote margin,
Yes.
what percentage of ballots have been late delivered or lost?
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Like that's the zone we're in right now. This is exactly what we were worried about beforehand.
Well, it is. I mean, you know, as far as I was reading, there seemed to be two scenarios. One is a Biden blowout, and the other is like a situation where we end up in the courts.
Yeah.
And, you know, if there's a path for Trump, that's the way it is. And it is, I mean, frankly, look, and I think I felt this, you know, there has always been a dynamic, it seems to me, going into these elections that I have experienced now, you know, having done this now professionally for 16 years or so, that there's a certain time out where you really have the clearest vision of what's going on. And then as you get closer, you just get caught up in sort of like aspirational thinking and fear-based thinking. And, you know, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, my feeling was I'm going to vote for Biden in New York State. It's something that I thought I would never do. Like I may have voted for Obama in 2008. But prior to that, I don't think I've ever voted for a Democratic presidential candidate in a blue state, because in my mind, I'm thinking if Joe Biden gets 10 million votes more than Donald Trump, you know, if it all comes from New York and California, whatever, that's going to make it harder for a judge, wherever that judge is, on the Supreme Court or on a federal appellate court or wherever, to make a decision knowing that there is like the stakes are a little bit different between like a 500,000 person difference in votes and a 10 million. I think Emma's got something.
No,
Oh.
I just
She was raising her.
holding my hand like this for no reason.
Please, someone.
You interrupted Sam. Sam was on a roll there, and you interrupted.
Can I get to hall pass and just
I
make
thought
this
I was
all go away?
raising my hand, yeah.
And that was my sense like 4 months ago, and I just hung up on myself on the phone. That was my sense 4 months ago, and I gotta say, like, I'm feeling like that, you know, that vote in a blue state just to run up a tally may have had some value.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, I was telling all my friends in California who normally vote green or, you know, whatever, I'm going, don't do it this time, you know, just like you, Sam. I mean, I'm just going that we may need that as an argument. I mean, that may have to be part of the argument, that you go to the Supreme Court and you say, you know, look, we've got 10 million votes more. Are you really going to, you know, give the election to Donald Trump with a popular vote this outlandish? I mean, you know, I hope it doesn't get to that. I mean, it just seems crazy, but, you know, you look at these and you see that it is close. It is close. It is close even in the states where it really matters. And, you know, the idea that we were going to have a blowout, I just think was always a bit of a,
it was a beautiful dream.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful dream that we would.
It was. We wanted to. Because look, what that would have said is, look, the country hasn't lost its mind. That you know, it's not that crazy. You know, and I hate to say this because, you know, a win is a win is a win, but you know, having it be this close and having it go on for God knows how long and having it go to the courts and all this. What's the rest of the world going to say about this?
I think that ship has sailed. I mean, I think that world. Look, even at this point, even if Joe Biden had won by had won in the 350 electoral votes, I think the rest of the world would be insane to say like that's a stable country. I mean, I'm sorry, it's like, you know,
if I was a foreign minister of like Estonia, I would be like, I'm not counting on the U.S. for anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like, you know, what's, you know, okay, great. They voted Joe Biden, but I mean, to go from Obama to Trump
and then to Biden
to whom? I mean, it's not like there's no, at this point, before.
I'm like, get me Merkel on the phone. That's
Right.
who I can trust.
Exactly. I mean, at this point, it's like, I'm going to need to see like 20 years of stability
Right.
every 4 years of
Right.
Trump before I start to believe that something, like that was just, a fluke in terms of the country. All right. So just updating on North Carolina. I mean, I don't even know if this is really helpful to anybody, but it is what it is. I'm looking at the map now, and the AP says 91% has reported, but it appears that every single county has at the very least reported some votes. There is no county that is grayed, which means no results yet. So it is unclear to me what that means. There is 9% extant. We have Trump is up by 40,000 votes. There have been approximately 5.1 million votes cast. 10% of that is 500,000 votes still to be counted, presumably. And so
Nate Cohn at 10:22, so about 5 minutes ago, tweeting, "We have some good news for Democrats in North Carolina. We are reporting where a reporting error by Randolph County is padding Trump by about 30,000 in our estimate there. They reported both in-person abs, one stop, I'm not sure what that means, and absentee mail together, but the Needle's still expecting 45,000 early votes. So Nate Cohn says that's worth a net 30,000 for Biden, which would not be enough to get him into the lead, but it does help him a bit. We're looking for other errors."
Oh, boy.
So who knows?
Mess.
Oh, boy.
A mess. A mess.
Oh, God. What a mess.
Oh, boy.
Awful.
I can't even tell you the trajectory that the 2000 election sent me off in my life.
Hey.
I mean, right? I mean, we're
I
all
know.
on some level. I mean, I feel like Heather, you and I, and Alex,
Yeah.
maybe you were too young. I don't know. I think Emma was like that really messed
Which
up
date?
like
What,
2000.
2000, I was
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was 6.
Yeah, that really messed up Emma's elementary school
Oh,
trajectory.
man. Yeah.
But
I found some old diary entries though from when I was a little kid, talking about how, I wanted Gore to win and all of this stuff. So,
good for you.
It's very cutesy. I drew a little
Aw.
Gore sign. Yeah.
wow,
Aw.
that's pretty impressive.
I was pretty into politics at a young age, so I got into the right industry.
Sam, I think we've talked about this before, but I think the first time I remember my parents, and me and my parents staying up late to see an election result, and my parents being shocked, was Jesse Ventura's victory.
Oh,
Because I am a
wow.
Minnesotan.
Interesting. I don't think we did. Well, maybe you guys talked about it, but yeah.
And I just remember them being dumbfounded, and me as well. But like as the little kid version of it, of dumbfounded.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I remember I was out.
Dumber founded.
I think I was out in California, not voting, but I think I was back and forth in California when Schwarzenegger won too.
Yeah.
It was just like,
Oh,
really?
Oh yeah, all right.
I would have preferred.
Well, that was
Coleman.
a recount. That was a recount, which was very exciting. Ariana Huffington ran, and they had
Yeah.
Gary,
Recall. The recall.
the guy, the kid from Different Strokes.
Yeah, Coleman, Gary
ran.
Coleman.
Yeah, Gary. Yeah, I mean, that was a crazy one. I mean, 2000 was truly, the first. And I think it's important to sort of think about that, because remember what happened there. I mean, that was the first time we'd had since the 1800s one party, sort of seizing an electoral, college victory when they had lost the popular vote. That's just not something that commonly used to happen. Now it happens all the time, and we're just accepting this as somehow a normal thing. It was really not normal at the time. And of course, this was in the state where the Republican candidate's brother ran the election machinery, and it was crooked as can be. I mean, don't kid yourself. All this stuff about the counting of votes, I don't think we've really even thought deeply about who is running that machinery in the state.
The
and
Secretary
how
of
this is gonna be
State,
done.
Catherine Harris.
We had
her
Catherine
call in.
Harris.
The
Later a
parody version
congresswoman
of
for
her-
like one term.
The parody version of her called into the program tonight. Catherine Harris was the Secretary of State. She was in charge of counting the ballots. She was also moonlighting. Maybe she wasn't doing it at off hours. The chairman of the elect George W. Bush campaign.
Yeah.
In Florida. I mean, that to me, I mean, that also happened in Ohio in 2004 as well, frankly.
I do think, and I've thought for a long time, that just because especially for sort of elite media people, the stakes of that election felt so low at the time is how they were allowed to get away with it.
Yep.
Just because, like,
I'll
it
go
felt like it didn't.
earth tones.
Yeah, it didn't matter. It didn't matter who won, really. But like, it was a shocking thing when you just look at the plain facts of it. Yep. And
at the time, I didn't think that it was possible that the Supreme Court would take a case like that. You know, I mean, and I remember sitting there saying, you know,
nobody did.
The court's not going to get involved in this.
Nobody did.
Three veterans of that case are on the court now.
Yeah. Nobody thought the Supreme Court was going to take it.
That was really the template for what they're talking about doing now. I mean, one of the things I don't think people understand about the Republican Party, particularly, is that they've been working this stuff for a long, long time, and it comes long before 2000. That was the first time they were able to put this really into practice. They had when Jesse Jackson, and I talked about this with Sam this week, when Jesse Jackson had started. Registering all those people to vote, particularly African Americans in the big urban centers in the 1980s. They saw the handwriting on the wall, and the Republican Party put together an entire program that was it was part ALEC, which everybody knows about, you know, that group that was doing templates for each state on how they could suppress votes and a lot of other things. The Republican National Lawyers Association, and they put together this whole program to suppress votes and to challenge elections. Karl Rove made his bones challenging Supreme Court elections throughout the South, particularly in Alabama, where he actually got some of those votes overturned. This is something they do. I mean, this is part and parcel of their program because they know that they have to rule by a minority, and they've seen this coming for a very long time. So 2000 was really the template for what we may be seeing this time. When there's a close election and they are in a state where they can manipulate the machinery, and now that they've got a court that they feel very strongly and confidently that they can get this before the court, if nothing else, and go through the entire federal court machinery with all of Mitch McConnell's lackeys that he's put in place. This is how they're planning to win elections. I mean, this isn't really. I mean, look at what the popular vote here tonight. If this comes out the way we think it will, even if this is a real squeaker and we come down to Pennsylvania or wind up with, some kind of a 2-week delay in getting the electoral college vote, the popular vote is not in question. Joe Biden is going to win the popular vote, and it's going to be a substantial, decisive win. And how we can, sit here and let this happen again, for the third time in 20 years is completely outrageous. Democrats now have to win, by 20 points and have to win, every white working class blue collar guy in the Rust Belt in order to win an election. That's ridiculous. That's not a real. I mean, those of us who are sitting out here in California are going, "Hello,"
Yeah.
What or in many other places.
Your votes are worth
a
fraction. Doug Jones has lost his
and
race.
Trump has won.
We knew
Missouri.
that.
Yeah,
we knew that.
But Cori Bush, officially a congresswoman. Pretty good.
Oh, good for Cori Bush.
Wow. Drink.
We're gonna have it's gonna be insane to have like more legitimately left wing members of Congress than in any time in my lifetime, and then just like a rock
Trump
hard
or
Republican
Biden
Senate. It's gonna be so weird.
Yep. With a weird Republican rump party full of QAnon people and, weirdo, right-wing Fox News brainwashed people. I mean,
I just want to make this
weird.
I just need to. This just goes to show how disconnected the electorate is from material conditions on the ground and how their government is governing. And that has so much to do with the failure of the Democratic Party to connect their messaging and their ideology and be clear about their goals in terms of improving people's lives materially. and has so much to do with how Trump has drummed up culture war nonsense and muddied the waters in that area. But I put more of it on the Democrats, because the fact that people can't connect that they're in an economic depression and that there's mass unemployment and that a majority of Americans will have zero savings or emergency funds by the end of the year, and the fact that tens of millions of Americans don't have health insurance, and the fact that there's massive economic pain and wages are completely way too low, the fact that they cannot connect that to the ruling party is a failure of the Democrats. And we're seeing that reflected. This is a culture war reality show TV game where people aren't understand. I mean, COVID wasn't enough. Clearly, it wasn't enough. Democrats had to make their case.
Well, the higher the $15 minimum wage one in Florida, right? $15 minimum wage one in Florida.
Oh, it did.
I think it was ahead last time I looked.
Yes, I think that's right.
And I think.
And marijuana one in Jersey.
Marijuana one in Jersey. I this was my joke from a few years ago, but the number one way to win an election in the U.S. is to just have a left wing material improvement to people's lives unattached to any Democratic politician. Like when Florida passed the reenfranchisement of all former
right,
and it outpolled Democrats by like 10, 15 points.
Well, that goes.
That's completely right. That's cross partisan,
right? Because it is. It is. Look, if the two parties, their jobs are to win, and the Republicans may, certainly have. An advantage in terms of the actual sheer numbers that they need in many instances to win. We've talked about that, but that's just the reality. I mean, you can't wish that away. You can't, it's the analogy is, I'm making a movie and it's like, well, we had really bad luck on these shooting days. That's why the movie's bad. Sorry, I'm watching a movie. I'm just judging the movie. And the Democrats need to figure out how to, if they are for things like, and which it appears to me that they are, it's in their best interest to enfranchising, people who have served their time in prison, or if they are for the $15 minimum wage, they need to figure out, they need to make an active choice of associating themselves with these positions and to do it in a way that is better. To take advantage of the popularity of these positions, because they still seem to have and look, Joe Biden, I think, ran the best Joe Biden campaign that he could in some respects because of just limitations to who he is and what his brand is. But that is not a campaign that was about a proactive response. It was, like we said, just how can we make this just exclusively a referendum on Donald Trump? And the reality could be that the Republicans are just too good at what they do to make it just a referendum about Donald Trump. And therefore, the Democrats need to step up and change their strategy. They're like, we're playing a post-up game. Well, I guess what? You may be playing a post-up game, exactly how it should be played, but the running game that your opponent is playing is beating you. So you've got to play a different game.
Yeah.
And I will say, I have to log off in a minute, but I will say, my last observation is I still remember that the Donald Trump's favorability numbers have been shockingly static for much of his term. And the time when they reached their absolute pit, when they were their lowest, was when the Republican Congress was attempting to repeal Obamacare and pass the tax cuts. And what those had in common was that they were just normal Republican policy goals that Republicans were pursuing.
Yes.
And people have said, like, oh my God, if it weren't for COVID, what would this election look like? Trump would be walking away with it. Think instead, if this were President Marco Rubio, who wouldn't have been elected in the first place, I don't think. But if you were able to just do a normal pitch against normal Republican policy, it is so incredibly unpopular. All you have to do is tell the story of what they actually support and get people to believe it. And I think it would be a lot easier.
I mean, a competent political party, and again, the Democrats could end up winning this. Maybe they could win in court. I mean, we don't know. But a competent Democratic Party, I could say the words Sam Brownback or Kansas, and everybody would know exactly what I'm talking about. And the idea that they didn't exploit Kansas, right, in some manner, like in a national way, you never hear people talk about Kansas, and it was the sort of perfect model to attack the Republicans. I mean, I grew up with Massachusetts and San Francisco Valley.
They run against Nancy Pelosi every year. Every year they run against Nancy Pelosi, and no one is running. I mean,
just think about how they've been able to manage this COVID. It's like, we're not going to pay for Democrat, malfeasance in the states, and the people are leaving New York. There's a narrative that they cultivate. They tell a story. They tell a story. And what's the functional equivalent for on the Democratic side? Kansas was a story, and
they don't talk about functional failures though in that way. They talk about character. They talk about racism. They talk about.
Haven't they talked about Trump's response to the coronavirus, though? Is that not resonating with people?
Apparently, honestly, though, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with, people in my life, not necessarily in my family, but people who I know, right? Older suburbanite kind of people who are apolitical, who just go, well, what could he have done? Right?
Yeah.
That is a lot of the sentiment that I hear of people who don't follow politics, who don't understand how, say, Japan responded, and they had national mask mandates, and they didn't have to shut down entirely because people just followed.
That's absolutely one of the things.
Countries where they replaced a great percentage of wages, right? There's no proportionality to how people see these things, and we're so Americentric, and it's a part of the problem of our culture, but it's a huge failure of the Democrats, who aren't effectively enough. And I do think they tried, but there's something missing connecting Trump to the COVID failure. And honestly, I think a huge part of this too was why wasn't Biden talking more about the stimulus? If the Democrats were hammering, we're trying to get a stimulus through, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, they're the ones that are blocking it, blah, blah, blah. Look at their unreasonable demands. Look at the fact that they want to give a liability shield to corporations. Why is there not enough of a discussion about that? Biden barely talked about the stimulus.
Let's be honest here, right? The fact of the matter is there was no reason for Nancy Pelosi. If your perspective is, there was no reason for Nancy Pelosi not to say yes, even as horrible as it was, because we don't know if the liability was in the deal that Mnuchin was pitching.
Right.
No, we don't.
We don't know that. And maybe if it was so problematic, but I find it hard to believe that that's
she said not a national testing strategy. That was part of.
No, there was definitely, there's no doubt in my mind that $1.8 trillion was insufficient, but it would have to have accepted that deal would have done one of two things, and maybe one of three things. It would have, without a doubt, put enormous pressure on Mitch McConnell and enormous pressure on the Republican caucus in the Senate. One way or the other. Donald Trump is going to put pressure on them. Mitch McConnell's trying to push the other direction, this and that. It may have helped Donald Trump, although I'm not clear on that, but it definitely would have definitely, put some money into the pocket of Americans. And presumably if the Democrats take the House and the Senate and Joe Biden comes in, they can put more in February, but it would have been a bridge to that. But Pelosi's reluctance had to do with there's only two answers. Either A, she was afraid that the Republicans would pass it in the Senate.
Yeah.
And that it would help Trump. Because if the Republicans kill it, that's the best thing you could imagine, right? We agreed with President Trump and Mitch McConnell killed it. Republicans are toxic. Or B, she was just afraid that somehow he would get a marginal value out of it that the Democrats wouldn't. But it's that's a failure to communicate what they didn't get, or I just think that was an overblown concern.
No, but it's always an overblown concern, and I'm sorry, I'll stop harping on this for a second, but they're always operating out of fear, and they've done this for decades now. And it doesn't win elections. You have to be aggressive and make your case.
I think that I think a really important point that they have not internalized is that the progressive policy goals are more popular than Democrats, and they operate in the precisely opposite way.
Yeah.
Well, that would get in the way of thinking that they're
that's true.
Fucking amazing. So
that's true.
I mean, Sam, I'm going to log off now, but I wish you a happy anniversary.
Thank you, Alex. I was celebrating it with you.
I hope we talk again soon. Matt, Brendan, Emma, Heather, very nice to talk to you.
Nice.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check out here too in a minute. It is my wedding anniversry, so
yes, I understand.
Go check on my drunken husband.
Please try to enjoy it.
Out there.
Heather, thank you so much for
my pleasure
for both coming on tonight and coming on over the past 10, 15 years, I guess.
At least, yeah, even from the beginning, from time to time. But this was fun, and I appreciate it. It was a good venting exercise for me to try and get through this awful evening. And I didn't want it to be an awful evening, but I can't say that, I'm surprised that I'm sitting here with my, stomach churning and sort of getting ready to go, pop a Xanax or something to try and get through it. I mean, this is American politics right now are just an ongoing nightmare. So, here we are.
Well, thanks, Heather. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you.
And again, I think there's still a chance that things could turn. Heather was right that this time in 2018, things did not look great. I think.
Yeah. I think if you're a betting person, the markets that are giving you 2 to 3 to 1 on Trump, saying Trump's that big of a favorite, I think that's good money because I don't think he's that big of a favorite at all at this point. I think it's pretty close.
I mean, it is pretty close. It is pretty close.
There's another thing here too, which is just how much money the Biden campaign raised in August and September, and they had $432 million on hand October 14th. And where did that go?
Well, we'll have a better sense when they come out with those. I mean, maybe it'll go to court cases.
Probably.
They're raising.
I certainly, if they're going into these court cases and they got zero money, I'd be pretty pissed. I'd be pretty.
Do you think that they're prepared for a court case?
There's been stories about them raising money the past few weeks with regards to court cases, pending court cases.
I mean, it would be incredible malpractice. I am quite convinced that they have raised a lot of money for court cases. It would be just crazy malpractice. Let's go to some IMs. Serious Sam. Northampton County in Pennsylvania turnout seems encouraging from what I've seen at my polling site. I'm a poll greeter at the local state house candidate, Tara Zirinsky, Pennsylvania. HD Northampton went slightly for Trump in 2016, but polling for both GOP and Dems seems to indicate it should swing back to Biden 3 to 5 points. Keep an eye on us. That was some time ago, though.
We'll Sam, I don't know if you saw the message, but Kindler's in the waiting room.
Oh, he is? Oh, I am sorry about that. Kindler! God. So well, Andy will pick us up. Andy, will you... Andy Kindler is here to give us an update on what's happening with North Carolina. It's not the first person who's done that joke today, I don't think.
Am I the first person who's done any joke?
Nah,
to your knowledge?
All right, no, Andy, seriously, we don't have time to mess around. What's happening?
Okay. All right, so here's the deal. I just called my party operative in North Carolina. He says Dugard County is not reporting anything. He spoke to his guy in the Coshawasha Valley, And the Kashawacha Valley guy says, come back to me in 7 minutes. I'll get the guy who's good about Nevada on politics on the phone. I like that guy. The guy from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I love that guy.
Oh, I know you're talking about Ralston or something.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. Look, what are you going to do? We don't know. He doesn't know. They don't know.
Is he from Las Vegas or is he from like?
I don't know. I don't do good impressions. I'm not funny. I'm not popular. I made a lot of mistakes. I alienated my friends by not liking Louis C.K. Who would have seen that coming?
Andy, have you ever met Emma? Emma's our latest addition to the show.
Hi, Emma.
Hey, Andy, how are you?
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I mean, you're not cheering me up, though. I'll tell you that much. I mean, Susan, close the window. I don't think I'll jump yet. I'm close to jumping.
Where are you located? Because usually we see you from like your living room, and it seems like you've been now like I feel like you've been maybe sequestered somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I have a whole studio. Hold on a second, Eddie. I'm doing a session. Eddie, how was that? Good.
Who's Eddie? The guy who works at your studio?
I guess he works at the studio.
I am now in, not just I.
Are you on one of those crazy desks that raises up?
No, he's just standing.
No, I'm just
normally.
Standing because
I would love if you had one of those work desks.
This is now our almost 11 hours for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Am I comedy relief now?
Yeah, you're supposed to.
Honestly, yes.
Okay, here's the deal. The world is horrible. It's gotten worse. I, of course, started, like I do every 4 years, tweeting things like, landslide. That's Andy Kindler. Landslide. I said, it's nothing like it was 4 years ago. It's all different, which I still believe. But the main thing that I want everybody to get out of this segment is that Sam Seder hasn't had a full meal in about 24 hours.
That's not true. That's not true.
Are you eating a Vega bar? Because I have a Vega? Where are my CBD lozenges?
Did you get the CBD lozenges?
Well, I got a whole pack of those. Emma, I don't know if you smoked any of those CBDs. I smoked the whole pack of CBD cigarettes. Didn't feel
Not yet. I have smoked CBD before though.
What happens when you smoke it?
Well, so on my first date with my boyfriend, he brought out a CBD pen that was like 4 years ago, and
Pretty slick.
I was like, I knew it. I knew I liked you.
He's the one.
Etchings.
Now we've been together 4 years, and all we do is consume CBD.
That is
you don't do THC at all?
Oh, please, of course I do.
Oh, okay. That was just.
I have an edible in my bag. That's what I'm going to do tonight. Given what's happened later after I'm off here.
I spend
maybe not because I'm
Andy.
wine.
You look good.
Well, I've got I had a lot of work done. Not on my act, folks. One of my classic lines.
Hey, did you see that MSNBC clip where
yes, they referenced the Comedy Central clip and they credited your show is what the lawyer who's suing both of you told me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they did the clip from 2008 where I have been nothing. I've been telling you that I'm prescient. I'm nothing.
No, I've watched that. We've watched that many times.
I know. But they don't know, Sam. You like me, but the rest of the audience doesn't. I'm trying to get in on the good side now. I'm your mainstream. I'm the Obama bot. You love to hate to love to hate.
I don't think I've ever seen you so, like, I wouldn't say jubilant, but ebullient, maybe?
I am ebullient, but you know what? 4 years ago,
is it because it looks so bleak right now that it sort of activates that sort of like comedy muscle where like this is the way that that's what's going on there, right?
I have two words for you for the rest of my Jewish friends. Underground Railroad. Hello. They start with Muslims. They always get to the Jews.
I mean, it's
Emma, this is not comic relief. When I'm so real, I'm like Lenny Bruce without the material.
And hopefully the heroin.
Oh, that would be bad. No, that's one drug that you never hear successful heroin stories. That's what made me stay away from that drug. You never hear someone go, you know what? Contrary to what you hear, very nice habit.
Yes, right, exactly.
You always hear the first time I did it, I never wanted to do anything else again. That's why I wouldn't get into it, because I have a little bit of foresight. Okay, I'm sorry.
Wow, that's impressive, Andy.
It really is impressive. You look dazed, and you are dazed. What's your take now? What's your take now? Are we dead? Should we leave now?
I mean,
the Arizona results were the only thing keeping me from just jumping out.
And what's happening with the Arizona results now?
I mean, it's still looking really good.
No, we're looking good in Arizona, because I'll tell you something about Maricopa County. When you have a man who was just pardoned, and thank God he was, a man who stands for Donald Trump's idea of America, Sheriff, his name was Sheriff Show Arpaio, who actually said he was having. Didn't he actually say, "Hey, come down to my concentration camps"? He called them concentration camps. Am I wrong about that? I think I'm right about it.
I'm not sure. You could be right about it. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Don't you have a correspondent in Maricopa County tonight?
Well, I mean, Emma is sort of our correspondent for
right.
Emma, what's going on down in Maricopa?
I'm thinking.
Joe Arpaio, he was defeated. I know he was defeated the last time he ran. So I think we're going to win in Arizona, because we're going to do great in that county. Well, I don't know. I'm not on any team. I've never not voted Democratic. I've never voted anything other. Even in 19. What was my first election? I think I voted for Carter.
Now, the late counting ballots in North Carolina, those are still okay with the Supreme Court. Is that right?
Yes. I answered without knowing. 4 years ago, we were so depressed. Do you remember? Michael Brooks and you and me, we were sitting here stunned.
Well, I'm feeling like crazy, unstunned. Let's put it that way.
Is that how you're feeling now?
I'm a little bit concerned, yeah.
Yeah. But why don't you feel like I feel? I wrote landslide, about 25 tweets with landslide 7 hours ago. You think that's a good look?
Probably not going to. That's probably going to undercut your ability to get. Well, I don't know. I mean, based upon what was going around, you may get hired as a major analyst for a cable network.
That is the thing that is absolutely amazing to me, is that I remember in 2004 when John Kerry had to almost lost the election just on the basis of saying that he voted for something before he voted against it, because he knew what the bill was going to be. And that was the whole thing. He's a liar. But in the old days, it was you're a liar. Now, when did that leave? When did lying become totally cool?
I'm looking at these results, Andy.
What do you got now?
I mean, it doesn't look great.
What do you mean? Don't say you sound like a doctor who won't give me my cancer results. What's the prognosis?
Well, that's the thing. The MRI is blurry.
Okay, so Arizona, we're going to win, right?
I hope so.
I think it looks good anyway.
I just asked Nomi and she said good.
Okay, so now let's get more reactions from the optimistic side of the booth.
Well, Nomi's going to come on in just a minute or two.
Oh, you mean after you bounce me off?
Well, Andy, this was supposed to be a little bit more celebratory.
I was so upset. I was like, I'm coming on there, not like it was 4 years ago, where I really, after 4 years ago, I was so depressed that night. We literally covered it by staring without sound for about 25 minutes.
Yeah, I know. That's true.
You know what's fun is to go over to Dave Rubin's account on a day like today. Here's what he tweeted today, Dave Rubin.
Well, I am blocked.
New York. I mean, the New York. I don't usually post New York Times writers.
Right.
But this guy Nate Cohn says it looks good in Florida. What kind of a weasel is going to? Is he going to?
Andy, you don't appreciate his comedy? You know he's a comedian, right?
This is the thing about Dave. You know, Dave Rubin. I knew that he was a comic is what I've heard. But I mean, he does all the soy type jokes. Hey, you want some more soy? You you want some more snowflakes on your soy? Look at Sam's face. Sam, I'm in more trouble than you. You're a well-regarded member of the journalists. You're a well-regarded journalist. They'll never go after you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding. They went after you. MSNBC went after you for sarcasm.
I know it.
Can you believe that? What are you in for? Sarcasm? Well, you really meant it? No, I'm a comedian.
I mean, to be fair, don't say anything, but it was really more irony.
You know, I have been told that this is the definition of irony, and then we don't get it right all the time. So everybody uses, I use it all the time.
Yeah, no, you use it incorrectly.
I use it, but here's what irony is supposed to be, is that you took a train because you were scared of flying. And when you took the train, you were killed by an airplane flying into the train. That's irony.
You're saying that's ironic.
You mean by not using it as a verb or something?
I don't know. Is that irony?
Yes. That's what I've been told.
I'm not convinced about that. That seems pretty narrow.
That's why I don't.
It only deals with transportation. Is that what I'm
goods.
supposed to get? It only deals with transportation.
No. It means like the absolute thing that you didn't think would happen. Ironically, this is like trying to cheer up the most depressed group of kids I've ever seen in my life.
I thought that irony was had more to do with something that's not supposed to mean that. That it's
Boy, you talk about, both of us don't know a lot about words. Talk about you. You're not even in the same field that I'm in. At least I'm talking about definitions of words.
All right. It is an expression of one's meaning by using language that normally signifies the opposite. Right. Okay. Then yes, I was right.
But that could be some sarcasm sometimes.
No, sarcasm. Yes, it could. Sarcasm could be ironic. I said that ironically, and I was sarcastic when I did it. Sarcasm is more like where you, I feel like you exaggerate a response to mean the opposite, I guess. So that would be ironic. Yeah.
But I think that's more sarcasm. Oh, I'm really happy with what you said. Like that? No.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And we'll be back with two stumbling Jews whose knowledge.
Like a thought spiral episode.
Oh, thank you very much. Please listen, and you might want to listen to my incredibly unpopular. Did I say popular? Unpopular podcast, Thoughtspire, with me and J. Elvis Weinstein. 2 Jews, 2 mics, 2 hours.
Check it out, folks. Check it out. Andy Kindler, always.
I love you very much.
I love you too. And thank you for coming on tonight. And hopefully, we'll
see what happens.
Reconvene soon, and we'll be excited.
I will give you a forwarding number.
Yep. Okay, good.
Bye.
Bye. Andy Kindler, ladies and gentlemen. So, we were talking about the Red Mirage. That is in a place like Pennsylvania. That is where you anticipate a Red Mirage. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Do we got Nomi? She here? Okay, great. Nomi! Ladies and gentlemen, the host of the Nomi Key Show on YouTube and Patreon. Yes. No, after when I get into hour 11, things loosen up for me. Hey, let me just remind everybody, Nomi, before we begin, that today's monster episode, brought to you by SunsetLakeCBD.com. They have 2 new strains of CBD, which I think might come in handy over the next couple of weeks. They have Server, which is 18.9% CBD. It's the most potent hemp flower they have ever grown. And I'm thinking right about now, maybe if there's a way for them to up that up to about 35%, we might need that. But you can also get the sour special sauce that's 16.6% CBD. It's one of the rarest flower strains on the market. The aroma is super distinct from other strains, and it's apparently very New Englandy in terms of the soil that you can almost sense it. I mean, these smokes are like almost like I have to say the thing that I've enjoyed about, and I haven't smoked too much of the CBD. I have a little bit. Is that sort of like, there is like almost like, it reminds me of like when I was a kid, like the pipes. You'd smell like the tobacco and there would be different flavors of tobacco. But if you use Vote 25, it's also sort of New Englandy. As a kid, I don't remember it now. I don't see anybody. But if you use Vote 25, you get 25% off those strains. And of course, if you use Left is Best, you still get 20% off of the gummies, of the tinctures, of the CBD infused coffee, the smokables, the other smokables, and the salve, which is one of my go-tos with arnica and beeswax in it. It's a great company, great business practices, $15 minimum wage. They have mostly employee-owned, and of course, they practice regenerative agricultural practices that they do in conjunction with the University of Vermont. It's just a great all-around company, and the CBD has been very, very helpful, and I have a feeling I'm going to be leaning on it a little bit more these days. Nomi, Emma has stepped away for a moment, but what's happening? Maricopa County. Let's talk Arizona. We could use a little bit of good news.
Sorry.
Or did we lose the connection?
No, I'm just having a moment. I just poured my first drink of the night. I was like, okay, I can't get emotional. I went for a long hike yesterday, did some yoga, meditated. I was like, I got to hold it in for when it really matters. And I would say right now, that's the moment. Thank you. First off, I know we have to talk about Maricopa County, but I have not had the opportunity to say congratulations on your 10 years. And thank you for the lovely wine that you got me. Unfortunately, I'm not doing wine right now. I went a little harder.
I understand.
I will drink it. I went to mezcal. So
I might switch to tequila after this.
Hey, Naomi.
Hello, Emma.
Oh,
congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
Very, very exciting. We're just, heads up, TYT. We're taking over the majority report.
So any news on the ground from your folks in Arizona and your?
It's looking good in Arizona. I probably know as much as everybody else does at this point. Biden is up by over what seems to be around 250,000 votes. So Maricopa County is Phoenix and surrounding areas for folks to understand. And Maricopa County is not just like white right-wingers. Biden is up in Maricopa County by about 150,000 votes. There are communities outside of Phoenix, including Phoenix, the city, that are majority Latino or has a very large concentration of Latino. It's really like Scottsdale, that's more white conservative, North Scottsdale, like the northern Phoenix areas that are very wealthy, shocker. And that's kind of like where you want to watch how close the margins are. With that being said, Tucson, I mean, you have to keep in mind Tucson, even while it's more progressive, that's where Martha McSally was a congresswoman. So
yeah,
North Tucson, where my family lives, is always back and forth, Republican, Democrat. And I mean, it is Biden is sweet. You could tell in the streets. You just like people, just signs, Biden signs everywhere. Biden is sweeping it. I think Arizona is going to turn blue. In 2006, when I worked a Southwest operation, a regional field director operation back then when I was a kid. We turned Arizona blue. It was a very good year, but it's sort of been this mythology that Arizona is not blue. And I've always thought that if Democrats put their resources into Arizona, it would be blue. It would be consistently blue. Because the Republicans here are not like, yes, the Tea Party kind of flourished in Arizona, but they're not, it is very McCain-like. And the Democrats who are at the top of the ticket are not like the Democrats at the top of the ticket.
Right.
So there's this nationalized conception that's not actually what the movement is about. My cousin today said to me, he's never voted for a Democrat in his life. He voted for Gary Johnson last time. He was tempted to vote Libertarian again, but he realized his vote was a weapon against Trump if he supported Biden. So that was a good sign that the young boys are moving left.
Right, and it's cinema, it's Mark Kelly, I'm hopeful about Arizona, but the problem is obviously the states that aren't Arizona. I read this insanely disturbing statistic about union votes in Ohio. New York Times' Patricia Cohen says Biden made a big bid to reclaim union voters, but in Ohio, union voters went for Trump over Biden by 56%. To 42%, according to exit polls. So obviously exit polls not exact, but it doesn't bode well, and also isn't exact.
I should just note that's basically what Trump did in 2016 with those households too.
So perhaps Biden equivocating on Medicare for all for ostensibly union purposes isn't exactly the smartest strategy. I mean, I'm flummoxed by some of these numbers, but I don't know. You guys.
My theory on this with the union vote, couple things. You have a conditioned working class set of voters that have been abandoned by the Democratic Party way before Biden, way before Hillary, and that is a legacy and frankly, a result of the Democrats abandoning basically everywhere that's not a major city in America where they can make a lot of money off of ads or whatever their strategy is. So, that was long gone. And I think Biden was their only hope and their only strategy to winning them back. I don't necessarily buy, with that being said, I don't necessarily buy the exit polls still.
Yeah.
I still think that there's something off there. I mean, those are exit polls. Those are the worst possible outcome. And it's only going to get a little better with the mail-in voting, right? It's only going to get better on that end. It doesn't mean there's a guarantee win.
That's right. We should say exit polls.
Right. That
particularly this year would be
people voting
should
in person.
Be theoretically, if in-person votes favor the Trump, then the exit polls are skewed in that respect because you're not capturing the huge percentage of people who voted early, right? I mean, unless these polls have been done over an extended period of time, which I find hard to believe.
Yeah.
But there is another poll that is not exit poll, which is, this is Brad Heath. If you look at the counties with high COVID-19 death rates, Trump is outperforming the way he did in 2016 in those counties.
Interesting.
So Nomi, I was ranting about this before you came on, kind of to dovetail to, what you were saying earlier, material conditions on the ground and politics. There's a disconnect right now with how people are voting. I mean, it's become this culture war nonsense, particularly pushed forward by Donald Trump, but also, I think, most importantly, a failure of the Democrats to connect specific policy goals and clear objectives to how people are experiencing an economic depression, tens of millions unemployed, wages not going up, stagnant, not connected to productivity, all of these things that the missed opportunity just bothers me incredibly, even if Biden is able to pull this out. The fact that there isn't enough of a referendum on Trump's COVID response speaks to the failure of the Democrats. And I'm not trying to, be Johnny.
Jimmy
no, I wasn't saying Jimmy Dore, but I was going to say some colloquial
Johnny Dore.
Right, Johnny Dore. I'm not trying to be someone named Johnny Dore hypothetically, but I always err on the side of blaming the people who are pushing forward a message as opposed to voters' decisions, because it's usually a failure of turnout in that area, and I don't know.
I think the decision to go for the suburban white vote is pretty heinous and one that's only defensible if you crush this guy, and it doesn't look like they did that. So I don't know. I would have liked to.
Black and Latino turnout is not what they expected.
It's horrible.
Because particularly they take those voters for granted and then scoffed at Trump's blackmail outreach, which seems to have chipped away and was significant in 2016. What was it, 20+% of black men that voted for Trump?
But let me just add.
Voters, sorry.
But the COVID thing, though, I think there's another phenomena that's going on here, and there's no doubt there's a huge Democratic failure. But let's just take the COVID thing. I mean, I don't know what can be done about counties that experience high COVID-19 death rates, which means necessarily that they experience high COVID infection rates, which means that they experience high COVID hospitalization rates. If their attachment to Trump has grown, like, what's the solution for that?
Okay, so that's where I am. I'm 100% Democrats failed on the same page. I don't think that maybe I'm just being a little bit too impulsive, but this is just organizer in me. I'm in a swing state right now. I'm talking to folks, right? When you have to talk to you have to meet that person where they are. The economic message is not working on the votes that we need to move right now. And I think it's because there is a 30, 40-year effort to frankly brainwash them through Fox News, through culture wars. And I don't think a Bernie Sanders would have been able to swing the exit poll union members who think the Democrats are communists or or whatever it is that their messaging.
You may be right in this moment. Differently in 2016, but in this moment, you may be right. Right.
Exactly. And it's not because our message isn't a winning message. It's because the damage has been done by decades of the neoliberals abandoning the working class and Donald Trump building this cult, and the capitalist forces realizing that Donald Trump, even as evil as he is, he's still great for their pocketbooks. There's still those suburban voters. So I don't know if the suburban strategy was a bad strategy for Biden, because I don't think he knew what his strategy was. And even if he came out for Medicare for all, and even if he had a more solid COVID strategy and economic message, I don't know, given the partisanship in this country and something that has to be taken into account in this election, which I actually do think will influence the outcome, the gerrymandering and the voter suppression that has been a decades-long effort by Republicans. And this is not like, if the neoliberals had their eye on the ball decades ago, if Obama had not abandoned organizing across the country, we wouldn't be in this voter suppression situation right now. And that, I think, has more of an influence on this election versus Biden coming out and saying Medicare for all, which obviously I want him to do that. Like, look, I have to reiterate that.
Right.
Well, then that sort of begs the question, okay, on some level, what you're suggesting is that, and I want to be clear that this is not over yet, but what it is definitely, this is the close scenario as opposed to the blowout scenario. And let's just stay focused on that figure about the COVID thing, because I think that puts it in the starkest terms, right? I mean, that suggests that there is almost a structural problem within the sort of the polarization is like more ingrained than can be addressed by anything in one election, which is awful scary, because it's not like, hey, we're going to take this time when, Marco Rubio is tinkering around the edges of the capital gains taxes, or President, Jeb Bush is like trying to do, slightly more targeted, I don't know, work requirements for, and we're going to take the time, this time to sort of build, this is like, we're trying to sort of shore up maybe like a leaky foundation as the house is, starting to burn, or there's an earthquake. That's a rather tough thing to do. I mean, I don't know what the solution is, but it, on some level, like the depth of the problem, and one thing that just strikes me, just when I'm looking at some of these numbers coming out of Florida, there seems to be a dynamic where, like, you hit a critical mass in these red counties where the critical mass is achieved, and it starts to have like a snowball effect, and actually sort of like implicates more. Like it has its own. It's like a self-propelling sort of what are those gyroscopes or something that like as it spins, it actually begins to accelerate. Mm-hmm. And so when you have an environment where, there's a critical mass achieved, it's impenetrable on some level. And I hope we haven't gotten there with the country.
Well, so there's something I was thinking about right now with the working class, right? It's not that Biden's not winning the working class. He's not winning enough of the working class. And there's, let's just say 10% of the working class that happens to reside in swing states we just can't move them. So you also, ultimately, when you're looking at electoral strategy and political strategy, you have to say, who can I move and where can I move them from? And they may have thought that they could move the John Kasich, like Republicans, more than they could move the 10% who just were used to support Democrats, but now show up for and they can't move them away. They've tested every message with them and they realize it's not going to work. And so then that's why they started working on all these other strategies. But ultimately, this to me is a surgical election, as it was in 2016, as it was in 2000. Republicans, our message is still working. This is record turnout beyond anything we can imagine, maybe even more than 1908. So right. The message in the masses, which is the working class, is working. It's just surgically being attacked by the Republicans, who have put all of their energy into every single tactic, including running Kanye West, at winning this election. And that's all they have. And they do a really good, damn good job of doing it. And Democrats, for whatever reason, maybe it's because, I'm going to call it and say it's Obama's fault. Obama, losing the House in 2010 created this scenario.
That's what I'm saying, is that there is a critical mass from yes. which things become. It's best illustrated with the gerrymandering cycle, right? Because once you get to that point where it's gerrymandered to the point, like in a place like Wisconsin, where you can win 54% of the vote and you still only have 36% of the members of the Senate. What's the strategy? Where is the other thing than like just dumb luck, super lucky one time at the right time to reverse that? How do you fix that? And I don't know. I don't want to say it's not fixable, because you never know when that dumb luck is going to strike, but it becomes a lot harder. Salah Mohsin, who is a reporter with Bloomberg News, is reporting that Wisconsin says they're announcing a winner tonight. Yeah. Michigan needs until Friday. Pennsylvania isn't coming out anytime soon either. This is per officials in those states.
Okay. Well, what about Michigan?
Not anytime soon. Arizona was just called by Fox News. So Fox is going. It's
Arizona called. Yeah, for Biden.
For Biden.
For Biden, yeah. It's looking, Biden is winning in Maricopa County, which is the county you have to win Arizona, by 150,000 votes right now. So
Trump wins Utah.
How is it like, I don't know. When the same amount of resources are deployed in these different places, how is it that the reality of the experience is being interpreted so radically different?
I think we did some interviews on this sort of topic, right?
In practice, it just seems so.
The Mason-Dixon line is a hell of a line.
Yeah, I guess. This
is also the new. Arizona is a different well,
that's the point.
It's not deep south. It's
right. That's exactly the point.
It's westward. Exactly yeah, for sure. Yeah. But the difference between Arizona and say like a Washington State and Oregon, for instance, is it's not as open when it comes to Democrat. Voting laws. except for the fact that they're used to mail-in voting, and Republicans weren't like, oh, mail-in voting is evil here, because 70% of Arizonans have been doing mail-in voting for the last decade.
Yeah, I mean,
no voter suppression. Sorry, Emma.
No. It's just the problem with these races extending, and the problem with Biden not taking a decisive lead in the states that he needed to tonight, is this increases the likelihood every single hour, every single minute that the election is contested, that Trump will be successful in some sort of court battle about the election.
How could they be so wrong about
the Supreme Court doesn't matter. The Supreme Court apparently doesn't matter, and we shouldn't worry about it.
But how could their strategy be so wrong ultimately in keeping Biden home, like with Trump attacking everyone and being on the campaign trail the last few weeks? How could
just like pick
such
their
a miscalculation again of doing basically the same strategy?
I almost don't even fault them. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to put that guy out there?
Yeah, him.
I mean, that's the problem, is that, like,
pick
you
your
know,
poison.
There's a limited set of options that you had with Biden. I mean, this is one of the things that, you know, we talked about months ago, is that it's all well and good if Trump is on a kamikaze trajectory, but if you need to change the dynamic in the election, the problem that a Biden has is that he doesn't have any of the tools to do that, because he's not running on anything. And so it's very hard for him to pivot to a different topic or to change the trajectory of the race, because his candidacy was very much about passivity and about laying low and not drawing attention to yourself. So you can't just automatically like show up a week before the election and go like, here is my affirmative, proactive policy. You just haven't set the table for that in any way. And so it's very hard to sort of pivot off it and change the dynamic of things. I mean, he wasn't going to be able to, I mean, can you imagine, like, I mean, if you started to have like, you know, big rallies, I mean, how does that, it cuts against the entire sort of COVID thing. But again, I just keep coming back to this thing, like, where COVID hit the hardest, Trump did better.
That's it. I think this is like the craziness of, and progressives, you know, because we have to think about these things moving forward, because this party, I will say this, neoliberalism is dead, no matter what. Biden winning or losing, the experiment clearly has not. I mean, when the IMF is saying that governments need to invest more in infrastructure and social programs, and they're going against neoliberal policies and against austerity, you know, neoliberalism has died. When the Financial Times is running op-eds yesterday on neoliberalism being dead. So it's our party, right? So we have to think now very thoughtfully about this moment and what works strategically, not massive movements against the Democrats and understanding their party system. We need to understand what messages are going to win the next generation of Bucks County voters or Ohio voters or Wisconsin voters. And I don't think they're going to necessarily be on the map next time. They're not going to be our swing voters in 4 years. Who knows what that is going to, I don't know where that, maybe it's Texas. But it's going to be a different message. So my only hope is whatever happens in this election, we're not reactive the way that Democrats always are. They always think, oh, how do we not do what we did 4 years ago, except for this election when they still did it. With that being said, though, there was a speech that Joe Biden did. It was his closing speech 2 days ago. And I don't know if you guys listened to it. But it was a nearly perfect speech. And I'm clearly not a Joe Biden fan. So like, right. Again, it was they let Biden as a human be Biden. And he hit every single point he needed to hit. And what I got out of that was, even with that, he couldn't sway folks. So I do think that it's like a cementation. Like there's just like something like people are so firm in the polarization. I know that's your point.
Well, my point was too is that like it's okay that Biden gave a great speech 2 days ago, but the whole point of his campaign has been this is not about me. This is completely about Donald Trump. And like I say, like I'm not making a value judgment of that strategy as much as I am an assessment of where it leaves you. He can give a great speech 2 days out, but it's irrelevant. It was made irrelevant because the strategy of the campaign has been, I'm baseline, Trump is horrible.
What would this strategy have been, Sam? Because like I'm actually in this perspective right now where I'm like, I don't know if any strategy. I don't know if a Bernie strategy.
Well, it's
I don't
possible.
Know if any strategy
I'm not. That's like I say.
Yeah.
I'm not making a value judgment on the strategy as much as I am just an assessment of the strategy in and of itself. And that is, it is by design irrelevant what Joe Biden says because by design. And, maybe that was the best strategy to pursue. Maybe it wasn't, make it be a referendum on Donald Trump. But if you're going to make it be a referendum on Donald Trump, what it does is it basically says that I am baseline. What I say does not matter because this is a vote whether or not Donald Trump is good or bad, period. And that limits what you're able to do because you are on some level, you're saying my strategy is that I'm going to have as little agency as possible. Mm-hmm. I can't sink myself. I can't raise myself. It is only going to be a referendum on the other guy. And it's a risky strategy on some level because you are basically saying, I'm going to allow for unforced errors. Now, from my perspective, letting, an extra, 50,000, 100,000 people die in the context of a pandemic to at least project that everything that we think we should do to deal with this pandemic, we should not be doing, would be enough to sink your candidacy as president. But then it turns out like, where his policies were the greatest failure in terms of like this pandemic, he did better.
Wait, so with that being said, okay, this is a great analysis for tonight, but I just don't think that this is the analysis 4 years from now. I think there's going to be such a seismic shift generationally.
Well, tell me
none of these voters are going to be our swing voters.
Well, that's true. But also so much is contingent upon who wins tonight, right? Like the fate of what happens 4 years from now is,
or who wins at the end of the week.
But the fate of who wins at the end of the week has a lot of bearing on
Yes.
what the strategy is 4 years from now. Like, these are not isolated. They're related, right? The electorate is going to be impacted by who wins this, in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 3 days or whatever it is.
How's this map looking right now? One thing that's interesting is Bucks County, though. Biden really seems to be taking it, which was one of those.
Yeah.
That's important for Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania is not looking great right now at all.
Well, Pennsylvania was one of those things where there would be a red mirage, right? They can't start counting the mail-in ballots until today, so those are going to be a little bit later.
And apparently, some of the urban areas are behind.
So
there's still Philadelphia's still 50% in, so it's we have a sense of how many votes.
Arizona makes it really nice, a lot nicer to have that in the back pocket at this point, frankly, than it was.
Yeah. Well, if we didn't, it would be,
Yeah.
I never thought. Maybe I'm just because I know Arizona. But I was like, yeah, of course it's gonna go blue. It almost went blue against John McCain in 2008. Go back and look at those numbers. If the Democrats had put any money in there, I think that they could have closed that gap and won against John McCain.
Yeah.
David Dane writes on Twitter, Unite Here, a union of at one point mostly unemployed hotel workers due to COVID, canvassed the hell out of Arizona and also Philadelphia, one of the only precinct walking operations on the Democratic side. there's going to be a lot of questions about that too. But again, you're right. Like, I mean, it appears that there is a huge amount of voters who came out, and that those numbers have been, we've exceeded all the expectations that one could reasonably have for bringing out voters on the Democratic side. The problem is that a bunch of people also came out on the Republican side.
Mark Kelly's won. So speaking of Arizona,
Mark Kelly is one. Well, that's good. We are.
Now let's primary them.
What are we?
I'm serious.
Oh, no. You don't need to argue with me.
By the way, Pacman is in the waiting room here.
Okay.
So.
All right. Let's bring David Pacman on. Do you want to stay on, Nomi? What's your? Okay, great.
9:30 here.
I'd like to welcome to the show. Let's see if he's dared to call in from his set.
Let me see what's happening.
Thanks, David.
I think Pacman has probably smartly not shown. Oh,
let's see what's going on.
Everyone's got like a similar version of a set.
Well, I know, but I mean, let's sequence this, right? Emma, David, Emma Vigeland, right?
Hey, David.
Sam, I have to congratulate you. Sam hinted to me that things were happening on the Sam Seder program, and he didn't tell me, and I didn't ask. I must admit.
Sam Seder program.
Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I guess, David, both your camera seems to be way pulled out wide. Your microphone does not seem to be going on. I mean, for a guy who's got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, there seems to be a lot of technical deficiencies with your show.
Can you hear me now any better?
Oh, my God.
No.
It's so a lot worse.
Is he trolling
I was
you?
actually using a different microphone.
No, it's still bad.
Sounds kind of 8-bit now.
No good.
Worse.
Oh my God. Let me see if
dude, are you
maybe can I send my my black magic? I don't even know if that'll work in Zoom. Oh my God.
Dave, do you need some help?
Now he's frozen. What's going on?
David is doing a show from the moon tonight, and
Brought to you by Elon Musk.
So listen, the video is going to have to be the video.
Oh, audio is horrible, buddy.
We may be better off with my web. We might actually have to go with the webcam audio.
Okay. Yes, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was congratulating you on the hire with Emma. I think it's a great direction for the Majority Report. I even would venture to say that had this hire been made 6 months ago, the race to 1 million subscribers, which I was not even participating in, may have gone a different way.
Well, it's not a competition, David.
Exactly.
That's why I was not engaging in it, and
Right.
I knew how important it was for you with your subpar technical
Right.
to get to 1 million subscribers. So I took a step back and said, okay, let him have this one.
Well, thank
Beautiful.
you, David. I appreciate it. I don't know how much of a boon I am. I've been pretty depressed the whole evening. So I don't know. By the way, Susan Collins with 47 to 55% of votes in is up by how many? 11 points?
Are the urban centers reporting that?
I just saw the decision desk tweet, and I don't have an account for some reason. If someone can,
People are in the YouTube chat, talking about making a big deal about the whole 1 million subscriber thing. And I just want to say, like, after I beat David to the set that we both have by about a year and a half, 2 years, I thought, okay, I'll let him beat me to 1 million subscribers first.
It was an incredible act of sportsmanship.
That's right. It was very generous. All right, David, let's cut to the quick here.
Yeah.
Enough of this chitter chat about YouTube stuff and sets. What's your sense of what's going on?
I just don't really have a sense of which states there really are mail-in votes coming. And I've got people telling me this is the red mirage scenario that we were worried about. And I've got people telling me the mirage is that you're expecting a whole bunch of Democratic mail-in ballots. I mean, just to take like one state, I looked at Pennsylvania. It is absolutely true that in Philadelphia, Allentown, and Pittsburgh, only like 16 to 22% of the vote is in, and it's going like 70, 80% for Biden. So like if you do really back of the envelope math, there's like potentially 750,000 to 1 million votes there coming for Joe Biden. But it's like, are they really, or is this a crazy thing to be waiting on?
Right. And to the extent that there are, will they be allowed to count these? I mean, there's a lot of like moving targets here.
Yeah.
It's it's like, I don't know. It's like shooting archery as you're driving in the back of a pickup truck with the target also on the back of a different pickup truck.
Yeah, there's just no confidence.
The Trump flags.
There's no confidence that if the votes are outstanding, they'll be counted. I just have no confidence whatsoever in the systems.
Yeah. And the systems are controlled and have been manipulated by the Republican Party. Can I just share a real quick thing without explore? So I'm there's a group of Biden like staffers who have me on a list, very small list of like 20 people, sharing just kind of insider perspectives to folks in the media. And I just got a pretty concerning email from them. The tone reminds me a lot of exactly this time of night in 2016, when they started off the same types of emails and texts with things aren't looking great. These are our 3 paths, and we will see if we get there. And they're all very dependent on Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Which is not looking, doesn't look, it looks split down the middle. I'll just say that.
I mean, there's very few scenarios where Biden doesn't need Pennsylvania.
Right.
You could win North Carolina and Michigan.
And Wisconsin, I think, right?
And Wisconsin.
They're saying right now, North Carolina, their current projection is going to go Republican, most likely. This is
that. I mean, then it's like that's very bad.
Yeah. So this is not media projection. This is, listen, they sent this to me because they know I'm in the media, so I'm going to share it. What's going to happen? Are they going to do like blacklist me? Wisconsin leans Democratic. Pennsylvania, they still think leans Democratic. So
okay.
You know, and they put Texas and North Carolina kind of in the same camp. So who knows? Internal projections there. But
have you heard anything, Nomi, about timeline? Like, do they think there will be calls at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, or is this going to maybe be it until tomorrow?
Great question. Let me take a look at this.
So it appears that there's going to be a runoff in the second Georgia Senate race. Warnock, and I'm not sure who it's going to be against in Georgia. Do we know? Can we check that out?
Warnock?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So Biden can lose Pennsylvania and get to 270 with Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nebraska's second.
Right.
Okay, I have the timeline answer. Don't expect to know Pennsylvania for 5 days. We will know Michigan in the early hours of tonight, Wednesday morning. We will know Wisconsin in 1 to 2 days. The states that Dems have lost were never toss-ups. They were always stretch states.
Yeah, I mean, that is just so, I don't know. On my, I think I saw maybe it was Emma's map earlier. I never had Georgia, Florida, Texas, or even Arizona, nor Ohio on my map for Biden. Like I wasn't counting on any of them. So far the map is exactly as I had it, but it did count on Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. And he could lose one of those, assuming it's not, actually he could lose any one of those, but it's looking like it's going to be worse. The only counter is I had Arizona going to Trump, and it looks like Arizona is going to end up with Biden.
Yeah, well, Fox News called it, right? Nomi?
Yeah, Fox News called it.
I think they did, yeah.
Yeah, no, I had I didn't have Florida, Georgia, whatever. I had North Carolina going to Biden.
Yes.
So but you know, Wisconsin and Michigan are crucial. So, I mean, if we could have Wisconsin or Michigan called tonight, that would
That's
be
not going to happen.
Yeah, well,
it's election weeks, folks. Well, I think we should do a 120-hour stream.
Yes, Warnock is going to be doing a runoff with Loeffler or Loeffler, Loeffler, which I think is less desirable than Collins, right? I mean, Collins would have been a little bit more polarizing, perhaps, than Loeffler, but the Loeffler has also the, if it works, the sort of the corruption ties.
Right.
Well, I don't know what the Ossoff race is looking like.
I was just going to ask you, how's that pyramid scheme going?
Don't know.
It looks like he's down by 10.
About 10-point margin with 73% of the vote in.
Unbelievable.
But again, that wasn't one, correct me if I'm wrong, that wasn't one of the ones that we were counting on to flip the Senate.
No, it wasn't. But it's still sort of just, another one of those things where it's like the more, I don't know, Chuck Schumer chosen candidate in that situation woefully underperformed.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that, I don't know how much has been reported out or how much of it is just rumor, but his parents put together a bunch of money for a PAC in between the electoral cycles, and that's why he was able to move to the front, is that he actually came with the capital. And if you come with the capital, that's Chuck Schumer's language. Oh, he doesn't have to go out there and raise money for you?
Right.
Great.
Right.
And, that's not how you win red states. Not how you win most states, but it's definitely not how you win red states. One thing just... Go ahead. No. I'm sorry, Emma. Go ahead.
No, it's just to add to that, it's the whole operating philosophy of the Democratic Party. I mean, why does Chuck Schumer have his position? It's not because he's some charismatic leader. It's because he's a prolific fundraiser, and Pelosi's the exact same way.
Yeah, especially Pelosi. I mean, that's how she came up. That's how she was able to win her first race.
How did Hakeem Jeffries get his leadership position? Same deal. How did Crowley get it before him? It's same deal. So.
The back to the Rust Belt thing, I think it's really fascinating that this was supposed to be this big referendum on the Rust Belt. In 2016 was this big moment to capture parts of the Sun Belt. And we're running a 2016 election in a year that looks like it's more like the 2016 strategy. I don't know if it's too early to say that, but, I think we do need a couple of states in the Rust Belt, but we didn't sweep the Rust Belt. We didn't sweep the Sun Belt states either. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
My thought on that was, I don't know about you guys, but it's almost, it's not almost, it's the situation on the ground, the empirical realities in these states economically and from the standpoint of the uncontrolled pandemic, it just doesn't matter. Like even we look at polls that say, coronavirus, economy, and George Floyd, protests are the top three issues.
Right.
Great. We assume that will lead to people voting a certain way. It doesn't.
Yeah, that's what Sam was just saying that.
Yep.
Which is why my entire theory in this election is the swing voters are who knows at this point, depending on the state, and voter suppression. That's the entire metric of everything.
Yeah.
And like just cultural identifying factors in terms of teams. When you're not connecting, again, how people are feeling and what the actual issues are to politicians and making that messaging clear, it's just impossible. It's the water is too muddied. I feel like that's what Trump has done most effectively, is muddied the waters between what policy does and how people are feeling. And those muddied waters are just, it's working to his advantage right now.
Of course. It's the ubiquitous person who says, I'm not into politics, but has really strong opinions about 5 or 10 things that all relate to who is in elected office from the state, local, and federal level. But they say, I'm just not really that into politics. So I'll just do what, my friends do, or what my state does, or what my parents do.
This is interesting. Kenosha County, which in 2016 was, I think, maybe, 47 to 47% practically. I think Trump won by a very small margin. Is 64 to 34% Trump. This is, of course, where we had a lot of protesting and violence, and this is where that 17-year-old kid shot 3 people dead.
Wow.
Now, it's unclear. Again, that is a place where you may have a red mirage there. So it's unclear, Would
have to be a hell of a red mirage with half the votes in and 2-1 for Trump, though.
Yeah. Yep. It's true.
So I have a question for you guys. I mean, do you think that, if we don't get the results from Pennsylvania until Friday, do you think that is ultimately what's going to decide this election? Is everything contingent on Pennsylvania having a decision?
I don't know. Tell me what happens in Wisconsin and Michigan, too.
Right.
Yeah. If Michigan comes in tonight, if Wisconsin comes in tomorrow.
Yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nebraska second, Arizona get him to 270 without Pennsylvania.
You're on it.
But he needs North Carolina in that scenario, right?
No.
Oh, he doesn't. Oh, he doesn't. Oh, okay.
Let's hold on for once. I want to take one quick call here. While I've got David, I've got you here. This is David. I'd like you to speak to my attorney.
Is this Ray Gun?
Calling from 509 area code. Who's this?
Oh, it's Ray Gun. I think he's been trying to get on with me too.
Yeah, you wish.
Okay.
G-Man and Sam, I'm here in my capacity as Sam's personal lawyer to mitigate damages for the stolen intellectual property that is on full display for the entire internet this evening. So, David, what kind of numbers are you pulling in these days? You beat Sam to $1 million, of course. I'm sure that's been good for you financially.
Okay.
No, you get it.
What percentage of these subscribers do you think?
I smell fear.
Yeah.
Is there a question, or are you just going to kind of go on and on with no question, though?
Well, if you want me to talk directly with your lawyer, I understand. But I am happy to do this here and now, frankly.
Okay. We'll do it.
You know how the algorithms and the YouTubes work. I click on a David Pakman video, and then or a Sam Seder video, and then it refers to me to a David Pakman video, and suddenly I'm confused about what is what and who is who, and I just think that there's a lot of nefarious business going on, and.
And how are you suggesting we remedy it?
Class in law school, and I forgot most of what I learned. But I'm pretty sure what you did violates certain laws in certain states.
It sounds about as plausible as Obamagate. Like, can you tell me which laws?
Oh yeah, they spied on his campaign.
Yeah,
it's the FISA stuff, and it's really bad. Hey, Sam, I'm going to jump. Okay. This has kind of run its course, but I love you, Sam. 10 years, the world is ending, but I feel wine in my belly and happy thoughts towards you. And David, I love your show, and I listen to it every day in the morning when I exercise. This is true.
When you exercise.
And David has been, yeah, I do. And I'm still fat. It's crazy. But David has been a very clear-minded about this election, and I appreciate his coverage very much, and I love both shows.
My 10-year anniversary, not David's.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm calling it like 8:30 at night because I texted you personally to see. I asked you if I could be on the show, and then I didn't get invited on. So I feel like a total cuck right now.
Oh, Reagan has your personal number, Sam? That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I'm his lawyer.
You got that.
I'm his lawyer.
I'm his lawyer.
Was he honored that Larry Hogan wrote him in for president?
Probably.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well,
right.
Ronald Reagan, I appreciate your calling in, despite the fact that you've taken this tact of trying to cuck me by kissing David Pakman's ass here.
Sam,
in that instance.
It's the art
but
of
I do
the
appreciate
art of the deal, Sam.
all your
the art of
participation in the show, except for what's just happened.
Yeah.
And I'm not going
It's the
to.
art of the deal, Sam. It's the art of the deal.
I'm not going to allow the past couple of minutes to in any way sully what has been a good relationship that you've had for the show over the past 10 years, more. All right, buddy.
Right.
Thanks for the call. All right, bye.
Well, that last call notwithstanding, now I can say it's really been a pleasure being on, and it's kind of a bummer situation, but what can we do?
Yep. Well, David, thank you for joining us.
Hey, while I have you though, Sam, there was a conversation we had at one point where I went on a rant about how Granny Smith apple is the only good apple.
Oof.
And I made the case as to why. I don't like mealy.
I love Granny Smith's, and he disagreed with me earlier.
Right. And so, but here's the thing. You mentioned some extremely pretentious apple that was only available like in the Hudson Valley in the third week of July that someone who likes Granny Smith would like.
Yeah, pristine.
Snapdragon, which is available in Brooklyn at the
Oh, no, not the Snapdragon. Not the Snapdragon. He's talking about the pristine.
But you just said the Snapdragon's your new favorite.
Snapdragon is my new favorite. But what David is talking about is the pristine apple, the other green apple that is an early summer apple.
Right.
Right.
Pristine. And that I could only find that like in very specific places.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is so New England.
I guess I'll stick with Granny
what's
Smith.
going on here.
I don't know.
But anyway, David, okay, to wrap up apple conversations, you like tart things? Do you like bitter things?
I mean, give me an example. I don't know what we're talking about.
There's a guy who doesn't understand an apple, right?
Well, you like Granny Smith's. I'm not into, like, I don't like dessert, but I love, like, sour, well, I guess this is dessert. I like sour candy and, like, tart things, and that's why I like Granny Smith's.
Pristine. Oh, sure. I'll take something tart, but dessert, I mean, you've got tiramisu, you've got flan, you've got baklava. I'm not going to turn down dessert, chocolate.
I'm not turning it down, but I would rather have an extra plate of pasta, or another glass of wine. Like
That's how I am, yeah.
The
wine is dessert.
Digestive.
Exactly, right.
Totally digestive. David, I know this is Sam's moment, but I just had a memory come to me. I've known David, David, do you remember when we met? I see you smiling. We met in like the park of New York. We were like, we're going to take on cable news. And how do we and we plotted and we tried so hard. And it was before this big rise on social media. And
Yes. Yeah. That's when I had my office in Financial District, I believe.
Yep. Yes, you did. And your brother worked on he was part of the Sirius show that I had until I left Ron Hartenbaum's scheme that also Sam Seder did.
Whoa, that's a whole topic for a few other documentaries.
Yes, definitely. Indeed. But I know this is Sam's moment. But it's been great knowing you also, David.
Absolutely. Guys, all right. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, take it easy, David.
Yep. See you, Sam. We'll be in touch.
Yes.
To be fair, David never brought me on as a contributor. Sam, I owe everything to you.
Of course. Well,
we have Nebraska second numbers, right?
We do.
A little bit. Or Nate Silver saying that Biden is plus 11 so far. So that's encouraging in terms of
also
of an election this
I got to tell you, I'm not listening to Nate Silver.
Thank you.
I mean,
will you listen to Jason Miller? Jason Miller is very upset about the apparently conservatives are very upset at Fox News about the Arizona call. They want him to retract it. I mean, we all can see why.
There's nothing. There's no debate here. Every Republican in my family, and I have real Republicans, voted for Joe Biden. Every Republican. There's no joke. This is not. And there's a lot of Republicans in my family across the board.
Because we saw Biden's numbers with the elderly versus boomers, right? Is that what's going on there?
I don't know. I've always thought that the Arizona Republican Party is more like McCain. It's
how much of this is then that Atlantic article from Jeffrey Goldberg? about him trashing McCain and, being disrespectful to McCain forever.
No, I mean, maybe I think that's not in the ads right now in Arizona. The ads are very much about character and decency. And I'm actually surprised that Joe Biden's ads haven't featured Cindy McCain more. It's really just been Joe Biden talking about decency and his son being a veteran. I mean, there are many bases in Arizona. He's talked about how, and this is what he said in his last speech. I thought it was a very smart line. I mean, it's not our line, but it's a smart line for this group. That like Russia put a bounty on Afghani soldiers, and this is not a man who supports our troops, and that I think that stuff clicks. I have friends and family in the military that lean right, very much so. Everybody, I only know one person in my like circle of right wing folks, and this is obviously an anecdote, who went for Trump, and like he was annihilated as a result. So there's I don't know. I worked in Arizona politics, and I never thought that it was Trump land. I always thought that the Tea Party folks were very loud, but a minority.
Just some shocking statistics about Latinos in Texas. Okay, so in 2016, Clinton was plus 60 in Starr County, which is the most Latino county in the United States. It's over 95% Latino. Biden is currently plus 5. 98% reporting.
Wait, she was plus 20, you said?
Plus 60.
Plus, but it's the male Latino vote.
I'm gonna triple check these numbers.
What's the percentage?
No. She's if those numbers are correct, Biden is trailing what Clinton's numbers were by 55%.
Wait, what was the percentage in?
I can't be.
Hold on, I'm sorry. It was retweeted by Luke Savage, so I need to triple check these things because people are
percentage, because Mike Siegel, won, and I know it's not necessarily the same demo, but it's the same contingency of voters that
Siegel did win tonight.
Yeah, he won tonight.
Oh, that's good.
Huge.
That's really good.
Huge.
It's fascinating to me how there's been these sort of like wins in congressional districts, right, where you would think it would be. I mean, I wonder if that speaks to the nature of how people campaign during this, and like, if there's a reevaluation of the importance of walking a district. I mean, just off the top of my head, when we're talking about progressive candidates, usually what they deploy is volunteers, right? I mean, that is generally what their competitive advantage is, that they have inspired followers who are willing to knock on doors, as opposed to maybe huge money or, consultants who are buying media ads, et cetera, et cetera. And I wonder if, we were, there's echoes of 2016, and we're like, I remember reading, like, I saw a couple of articles on, maybe door-to-door knocking is really not that effective, right. And that you can do it via Zoom or phone calls or something like that, as a way of justifying, of sort of backfilling decisions that were made by the campaign, right? I mean, we heard that about walking, doing get out the vote in Pennsylvania. We spoke to Mike from PA this evening. He had called, this time last year and said, our get out the vote, we're knocking on doors on the day of the election, the day before the election, and 25% of the doors we're knocking on are Trump voters, because we didn't have a field operation that was reporting back that, like, the statistical demographic modeling that we did was wrong.
The IDs weren't accurate.
The IDs weren't accurate. And the only way you find that out sometimes is by knocking on the door and saying who you're going to vote for.
That's, by the way, like malfeasance.
I mean, major and malfeasance. There was a real quality of like it's hard to know, but I have my suspicions. They're saying, like, we don't need to put volunteers out there because we have got sort of new technologies that are allowing us to do this. But what that also probably is campaign people putting a spin on their inability to get volunteers. So it's like, it's not, we couldn't get volunteers. And so we have now deployed this technology. It's, we wanted to deploy this technology. We didn't even want volunteers. It's that type of thing. And I wonder if what we heard from, when they put out a couple of let's put out a piece that says we don't need to be knocking on doors because Biden's not going to put out a campaign because we're too reliant on the strategy of COVID to muddle that by putting people out there for the campaign. I mean, it's
they didn't start.
We'll know down the road, maybe
campaigning until a month before. There were the only reason they started to invest in signs, for instance, was because state parties were complaining. Now, there was this whole message signs don't win elections. I grew up in local politics. When my mom was an elected official. When my mom had more signs, she won. And it was because it was a sign of enthusiasm. These big consultants put out this messaging saying, you don't need to knock on doors. You don't need to have to do signs because they're not making money off of that. Right. That's a money sucker. They make money off of it. By the way, ads don't guarantee you win. But you know what signs do? They show that the individual, a real individual, is so committed that they're willing to put that person's name on their street. And then suddenly the other one feels comfortable doing so. And it feels like a community. And that is an indicator. So, I think what happened with Mike Seals is a really important point because, I asked Chris Rabb, who is from the highest, he's a representative from Pennsylvania, 200th district. He comes from the district that has the highest turnout in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, Northwest Philadelphia. And I asked him, I said, so your legislature is so close. Do you think that there's going to be a group of voters that Republican voters, Lincoln Project voters who support support Biden, but then support Republicans in the down ticket? And he was like, this is the ultimate question. Are they going to split their vote? Are they, because they don't have they voted against having, check off a Democrat and everybody down ballot becomes a Democrat. That's
right.
A single party vote. So he said, this is the ultimate question. And the real question, he said is, will those people down ballot be able to out-organize the top of the ballot? And that's what Mike Seal did. And I think that's important. He ran before. He had an amazing operation on the ground. But it also is important as a lesson for us progressives to recognize that in these presidential years, the legislatures really do matter. And I think that's been drowned out. Not just presidential years. This is a 0 year. This is a redistricting year.
Yep.
These legislatures really matter. So my friend Christine Pellegrino, Long Island, who's running for Senate, and we're about to get a supermajority in New York, she's on the fence right now. We don't know, even though she should win because she couldn't get the volunteers that the people in New York City could get.
Right.
Are you kidding me? Go to Long Island. That's where you're going to win. That's where you're going to take over the state. We have to be more strategic as a movement.
Yep. Emma just sent me this tweet, break down that Starr County.
Yeah, it was framed poorly by that initial tweet, but basically Hillary had almost 80% of the votes in that county in 2016, and Biden is barely beating Trump with just over 50%.
The difference is that there was almost double the turnout. Closer to 80% more of the turnout. It's just that of those extra people who were brought out in Starr County, more of those new voters went with Trump. So the net was diminished in terms of the net value of those voters.
Ohio's official for Trump. We knew that. According to Alex Thompson, Politico.
Ohio was called for Trump.
According to Alex Thompson, yeah.
Great, honest person at Politico.
Yeah, I like him.
2016.
He's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Bullock is doing well, supposedly.
All right. What the hell? I was sure that was not going to happen.
Oh man, this is
Of course this is what this is. Of course this is it. Oh, Jesus. Lord have mercy.
DC decriminalized psilocybin. It's good news for Jamie with the mushrooms. It looks like Joni Ernst is going to win in Iowa.
This is so interesting. Wait, it looks like Mike Siegel may not have won. Why did someone in his campaign said that they won? Am I wrong here? Is anybody seeing something else in Mike Siegel's race? And I apologize, folks, for miscalling it if that's the case, but it came from something else.
It's okay. I'm. Everything is contradictory tonight.
Oh, legalizing marijuana won in Arizona, guys.
There you go.
I don't even.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Did I'm questioning? There was a proposition, Prop 208, I believe, to fully fund public schools to counter, Arizona's a right to work state, and there was obviously mass movements. Let's see.
McCall's up 5 points with 89% in.
Who's up?
McCall against Siegel in Texas, 10.
This is just like CNN, guys. We're like actively Googling. We're like.
Well, I think.
We blew right past hour 12, I think.
Yeah, it's we certainly did.
Hooray!
Yay! I'm going to take one call. We've had people who've been hanging on for 3 hours. Calling from a 347 area code. Who's this? Folks, we're not going to get to any calls. If you're hanging on to the phone, I think it's probably best that you don't. But who's this? 347.
Is this me?
It is you.
Oh, Sam, it's Okajik in New York City.
Okajik. Long time.
Yes, sir.
Listener. Long time.
So, long time. Going back to Janine and
yep.
pre-break room live and Marin v. Seder and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So the last time we talked, I ran into you on the subway. I was just getting out of a Krav Maga workout. And I said, "You look like Sam Seder," and you're like, "Oh no, who's this?"
Well,
and then I told you it was Okajik, and you're okay. So anyway, a little perspective. So I'm a year older than you. My earliest political memory is the assassination of Bobby Kennedy. Mm. And I remember having McGovern signs in our windows, and we all know how that turned out.
Yeah.
So two things I'm taking away from tonight. One, pollsters don't know what the fuck they're doing. And two, there are a lot of rednecks in this country. I'm really dismayed that Trump isn't being punished for his handling of COVID. But the Trump voters that I know blame the government lockdown for any economic hardship, plus all the propaganda downplaying the risk of the virus. And that kind of goes to what you guys were talking about, Democrats or people not connecting what's happening on the ground to the political process and the function of government. I don't think that I can really blame the Biden campaign too much for this. I mean, so they're basing their messaging on polling, and as we've seen here, the pollsters don't know what the hell they're doing. But the one thing that does concern me that I would hold against them is if they are neglecting the base Black Latino voters and making sure that they're getting them out. And, we saw that in Florida. I don't like to see that the people who are being brutalized by the fascistic elements of this government are actually voting for them. So that, I think, is a real failure of messaging. So, and happy anniversary.
Thank you.
I want to also welcome Emma. I'm very excited, Emma, that you're on because you're really intelligent and very insightful. And Matt, I also really like your insightful input. So,
thank
you.
So
yeah, Matt's fine. But anyway, Georgia, I'm sorry, I'm just obsessing over this.
Yeah, the needle is.
Needle just moved it back to Biden having a 62% chance to win.
What?
I think
the
needle rocks.
I think Atlanta has yet to fully come in, so the rest of the counties have.
I think Fulton County and things around Atlanta are underreporting. Like basically every urban center in Georgia is underreporting.
Damn it! I heard.
So
I heard that there was some sort of water main break or a water pipe, and so they weren't able to report their votes. Right?
Jesus, just nuts. What a
Then
nuts.
just don't publish the needle. Like if we're waiting on, I don't know.
Okajik, appreciate the call, man. Good to hear from you.
Okay, listen, I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything you do. And I don't know. I think it's going to come down to I'm feeling like Trump is going to take Michigan. And I think what we may have to do is just organize on the local level and try to keep the police in check and fight for voters' rights and all that stuff. I'm really not optimistic at this point.
Yeah, hang in there. We'll see. It's early.
Okay.
It's early.
All right.
I mean, and by early, I mean it's like it's only Tuesday or Wednesday.
It's only November, guys. It's only November.
So in Georgia, I mean, I don't know what to make of that damn needle, frankly.
Hate the needle.
Well, I mean, if you zoom in on that map and you see what the turnout's like right now in Atlanta, I mean, it's still pretty high turnout. But there's one part of Atlanta in northeast in Cobb County. It's only 70% in. I don't know if that moves it. It's I don't know. I don't know what they're seeing that I can't tell. But based on turnout, it still doesn't look like Biden's going to get it. With that being said, Biden's going to speak in about 25 minutes. They've announced.
Oh, you're kidding.
And Paul Buttigieg?
I have Fulton, Cobb, and DeKalb County all under. Well, DeKalb's under 50%, under 40%. It's a huge county. Fulton is under 75%, and Cobb is under 85%.
Are they left leaning though? I mean,
they're all blue. They're all around Atlanta. Yeah,
I think so.
They're all suburbs, right? Am I wrong?
I'm not seeing the same thing. What are you looking at right now? Cobb's at 70%
I'm at
in.
Desk HQ.
Also, Charles Bethea of the New Yorker. I just retweeted it, Nomi, if you want to.
Fulton's at 58%. Okay.
That is a turn of events. Also, what is a sign that maybe there's some internal numbers that are looking better. Thomas Kaplan of the New York Times said a sign of confidence from Biden world. Rufus Gifford, one of his deputy campaign managers, tweeted shortly before midnight, "We're going to win." So, I mean, who knows if they're like, but they have to have some internal numbers.
Cobb is Democratic. Fulton is heavily, right? Or this, I mean, it's going to be a long week or two. Or three. I mean, this is the scenario that, I mean, I think to a certain extent, we all anticipated, right? On some level, which is like, it's going to be a shit show for the next week. And this is where I mean, this is where like a lot of things are going to come into play, right? Like, I mean,
I see how Georgia. Oh, that's very.
Joe Biden just won Minnesota via the AP. I mean,
oh yeah, Minnesota.
We
why it took so long for that.
I'm doing this for Minnesota.
Yeah,
I'm just that off the board. I didn't need that anxiety.
100%. I was so worried.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen a lot of rural Minnesota, and like, there's a lot of Trump stuff there.
Shout
I was
out to
worried.
Ilhan Omar for doing door knocking and for Biden.
Ilhan Omar, yeah, wonderful, and she won it obviously.
Yes, right, exactly. Yeah. Even though the campaign told them to basically stop.
Militant apathy writes in: Cobb is Democratic. Fulton, DeKalb is heavily Democratic. Fulton is 100% inner city. I live here. I live in Cobb. Don't count Georgia out. I'm telling you, he says.
Okay, so let's do some math here.
I mean, Georgia makes things, interesting. So we got to get on a thing is like the idea. the idea that it never even occurred to me that there was a chance that Biden could win Georgia and not North Carolina, let's say, that just didn't, I don't know why, it just didn't occur to me that was
We have Nabila Islam
they've
on.
had a huge voter turnout with, Abrams and the way that Kemp has run that state the past 2 years. Like, it's, they've already.
I guess I was just looking at the polling for, like Cunningham and just presuming like, okay, North Carolina is, but I mean, who knows? It is.
I wonder what impact this will have on the Senate races there too.
It doesn't
Georgia
appear
votes.
like it could. I mean, like the in
Purdue is +9 right now.
I don't think there's enough to take Warnock over 50%. I think.
Oh, sure. I'm saying we'll Ossoff's thing it closer, and I'm not hoping for that. I'm just saying it. I wonder what the numbers are going to really turn out to be.
They've already called it for Purdue. It seems at least. Oh no, they haven't called it yet for Purdue.
Bullock is +6 with 47% reporting. Could it be Hickenlooper? I mean, could it be Hickenlooper? Kelly, obviously.
Gideon.
So Gideon, right, and Bullock.
Ossoff is only down. Is down
like 300.
300.
But he has a lot of counting to do in DeKalb County still.
Yeah, in DeKalb, he's 80 to 18.
I mean, you still have 20% at least extant. So
DeKalb's only 37% in at the most, which is a huge county.
Wow.
Basically, I mean, if the math serves me right now, he cannot get away. He has the best chance in Pennsylvania versus Wisconsin or Michigan. Maybe I'm wrong. But if he doesn't get Pennsylvania, he doesn't win. If he doesn't get Wisconsin or Michigan, he doesn't win. He needs one of those three states. Otherwise, he's four electoral votes short, including, by the way, Nebraska.
Oh my God.
If that's right. Wait, I'm also not factoring in North Carolina because 95% of the votes are in North Carolina, and he's still down by a point and a half, basically.
I'm writing off North Carolina.
I am too, actually. I think it just doesn't.
I just think that the Tillis race does not bode well for Biden, because polling was so off there. Like I can't imagine that splitting. So
I don't know the counties in North Carolina enough. If there's somebody who knows better, please call in. I think like my frustration here though is just we knew it was going to be so close. So why so lax on some of this stuff? Just why?
What do you mean? Who so lax?
Iowa's officially Trump.
Well, I mean, lax in terms of, okay, so in North Carolina was on the map in 2012, for instance, right? Charlotte was the convention. That was their big push there. Georgia, I mean, they could have invested a little bit more. They realized in the end that it might flip. If they just, I understand that they wanted to focus on the Rust Belt. Some of that messaging stuff should have come in earlier. Like knowing that like certain economic messages weren't working in the Rust Belt should have come in August, July. It just feels like, given that there were so many strategies and it's so close with so many strategies, it seems like they were not focused enough and they were focusing too big on big media. Like if there was one strategy like in 2016 and that strategy was wrong and it was big media and you had Bill Clinton arguing, John Podesta and Bill Clinton arguing with like Robbie Mook, that's one thing. That was like a generational conflict. But this time around, there were so many paths to victory. And it seems like they never fully invested in any of the paths. And some of them were like the Rust Belt, maybe you just could never have moved them. But in states like Georgia, you probably could have moved, more folks to turn out to the polls in certain districts if you had actual operations.
Here's a thought. Maybe he should have picked Stacey Abrams for VP.
Oh God, don't even.
Look,
Emma, I hate you right now.
Look, what did Kamala Harris do?
I mean,
if they believe, if they had internal polling showing Georgia was in play, do I think Stacey Abrams would be demonstrably better or worse than Kamala Harris? No. So is she an even more brazen careerist? Potentially, yes. But I guess that's kind of a sexist term, so I shouldn't use it. But anyway,
it's like it's
counting the effectiveness of the K-Hive on social media.
Right.
If only Stacey Abrams had inherited Hillary Clinton's rockbot operation. No, but the reality is like for so long there's this idea that vice presidents' states don't matter in general elections, and like they pick them because of that. But this is a situation in which that might have actually influenced it.
Right. It might have.
Well, I mean, because you may not have needed much.
Exactly.
Right. I mean,
And if you were picking a woman of color already,
I mean,
it's
possible that Georgia comes down to 50,000 votes or something like that.
Exactly. Like Kamala Harris's coalition, not that she had much of one in the primary, would not indicate that picking her would give you a strategic advantage in any area outside of her identity. And if you were considering women of color, if you thought Georgia was in play, like, again, I feel like this is going to Nomi's larger point of strategic kind of missed opportunities. I don't know. But again, I'm playing Monday morning quarterback or Wednesday early morning anxious political talk lady.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean it's hard to know if they had data that said Georgia was really close and North Carolina is actually out of reach, or I don't know. I look at these results and I can't even. I mean, it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be even harder. I know I keep harping on this, but I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. I mean, I suppose they could poll, but if somebody walked into my office, in my hypothetical office
I was like, where's that office?
At the Biden campaign, at the Biden campaign, and said, "Hey, Sam, we got the polling back, and this is interesting. All the places where COVID's the worst, Trump's actually doing better than he did in 2016. No, that's a mistake. Sorry, that's not possible. That's not a rational reaction to the increase. Like in places where COVID is more real, the idea that he's doing better. Like, I don't even know how to, I can't even reverse engineer that.
And how do you, with Iowa, what put Iowa in play was that they're experiencing this specific economic depression that other states aren't. That's COVID related, but also related to the extreme weather patterns that they've been experiencing that's been affecting their crops and everything. And Trump got it wrong at a rally in Iowa, said it was flooding when it's really been windstorms. And then polls looked like, oh, they were all in Biden's favor. And then they swung back to Trump immediately. And the Midwest also, on top of that, is being hit really hard by COVID right now. So none of those things make sense. None in past political scenarios, none of that would favor the incumbent.
The only thing that I'm seeing a little bit of some people writing about is just education levels.
So I think there's a lot of different causalities there that are going to be interesting to tease apart. Like who's in those sorts of areas anyway. I don't know.
In Staten Island, for instance, so New York, record turnout.
How's Rose doing?
He's losing by double digits right now.
What?
Whoa.
Yep. And I mean, maybe this is a situation in which if you ran someone on an economic message, maybe not. Maybe if the Democrats, you know how Democrats are like, oh, they're going to label us as communists. Maybe the Democrats didn't spend all their time labeling the populace as communists. That wouldn't be the message that the Republicans used against them, because Max Rose was labeled as a communist by Maliotakis, and Max Rose is like a veteran.
Well, I mean,
doesn't believe in Medicare.
Barack Obama was labeled as a communist.
Exactly.
That's just, they're all going to be labeled as a communist.
I got a text saying on ABC, Governor of Pennsylvania saying about 900,000 more Democrats voted by mail than Republicans. He's a Democrat, but obviously maybe that is an encouraging sign for Pennsylvania.
Well, again, that was on my list of red mirage, right? Because you're not going to get mail-in ballots can't be counted. Red mirage, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see the blue shift.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the blue mirage was supposed to be North Carolina and Florida. That didn't work out. Possibly Iowa, blue mirage. That's also gone. Ohio, also possibly a blue mirage. Yes. And those all should be election eve calls. It's according to the list that I made from our friend Aaron Kleinman. Texas, we should start hearing something about soon.
Mm-hmm. Trump won Montana. Not a surprise, but interesting dynamics for the Senate race. Although, seems like Bullock has a strange amount of bipartisan support.
I mean,
based on his time there as governor.
Daines is now up in the Senate race in Montana.
Oh.
But that's it. There's still only 55 to 65% of the vote in, and he's only up by less than 3,000 votes.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Plenty of room.
Thanks.
What and Collins is looking good, right?
Plus 14 with 33%.
That's too early.
Yeah.
What is Peters doing?
Let's see. Peters, he's down almost 300,000 votes with over half the votes in. Close between 54 and 50 and 63% of the votes.
If Biden wins Georgia,
that opens up a whole new map of possibilities.
Right. I mean,
it cancels out North Carolina.
It cancels out North Carolina, but it also could. You don't need Pennsylvania at that point, even, do you? Assuming he wins Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia.
Yeah, I think so. If he wins Michigan and Wisconsin, that's
and Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Nevada, yeah.
Nevada's the one there, yeah.
You know what's really odd about all this is you have areas of New York City and New York State, and you have areas of the country, I think, that we just didn't understand how powerful that Republican Trump base was in shifting the election comparatively to Sunbelt states. I mean, Arizona, I've always said this, like the Trump people are not the defining Republicans in Arizona. I'm looking at Katko versus Dana Balter in upstate New York. I mean, is that your district?
No. That's
you're Delgado, right? You're 19.
Oh yeah, Delgado. I mean, that is
Syracuse, right? What's happening with that?
Oh, it's a blowout. Total blowout.
For who?
Total blowout. Republicans.
Wait, what is? I'm sorry.
So Balter, Republicans are up by 21 points right now. Katko. Jacobs in a district that my mother was a legislator that overlapped this district almost entirely. Jacobs, a Republican. My mother's a Democrat, obviously. Jacobs was up by 36 points right now. There is Maliotakis against Rose up by 16. This is New York State. The Trump coalition that we thought he was not building out, I think it's bigger than we thought. I think there's a silent Trump voter that we're just not able to factor in for whatever reason. And I don't know if it comes down to police brutality against, you know, the all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter message. I don't know what it is, but that is way bigger than any margins they were counting. I mean, they thought that those were flippable districts.
But I mean, this is the strategy that Trump has been pursuing, right? It's like to take his base, and actually get them and squeeze more out of the areas where he's there, like to get a higher yield from areas that, and again, it could be one of those things where you hit a certain critical mass. It isn't, you know, it's analogous to the concept of gerrymandering, but it has more to do with the media and social environment that's created when there's a certain number of people who feel a certain way, feel it more intensely, and others who may have been sidelined just get pulled in. I mean, this is the theory that we talk about, you know, on some level on the left. We haven't quite figured out, frankly, what the recipe is, right? I mean, that's what theoretically, in some ways, the Bernie primary campaign was, you know, sort of theoretically about, at least, you know, on some, like, I don't know, 25,000 foot level, which is we're going to motivate people who otherwise haven't been, you know, interested in politics by providing these material benefits and these policies, and it's going to where people are, you know, where the lean sort of type of people who are simpatico ideologically, but just don't think that politics are that relevant, they're going to be activated by this. It's the same theory that Trump is deploying. He's using a different tool, I think.
That's right. I mean, I think Biden thought he had them, and that's why he went to the conservatives. Biden thought he had them. Like, when some of these people that were in swing districts are losing by 40 points, 36 points, that means the Democrats thought that they had those movable votes you're just saying, and Republicans, when they didn't have any of them.
Yep.
Or working people.
I mean, the problem is I'm just not necessarily seeing evidence. I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest.
Tom Suozzi is losing.
Really?
Against a Republican.
In Long Island?
In Long Island.
Jeez,
which, granted, he's a centrist, but that was the former DCCC chair. That was his district.
I was just in that district
4 years ago.
I was just in that district. Trump flags everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the strategy of just trying to singularly focus on shaving off reasonable Republicans and suburbanites, it's proving to not be.
Brandisi.
Yeah.
Brandisi, a sitting Democratic congressman, is down by 11 points against a Republican. This is a wave year for Republicans down ballot in a Democratic state. So we understand how this works, right? Record turnout. And in New York, we're losing Democratic seats in a presidential year. That is a failure. That is a massive failure by Democrats. That is a cataclysmic failure.
Wasn't there, I mean, I was reading that Cuomo was pushing back against the state Senate, a veto-proof
supermajority.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be down to two points. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm going to have to look at filings when they come out in January. But, you know, there are seats that the Democrats were going to win with a supermajority that probably would have been more, you know, leaning more towards a Cuomo, like the seats in Long Island, for instance, some Long Island seats would have been more likely Cuomo supporters, but 2 more seats in the Senate give the whole Democratic caucus a supermajority so that Cuomo can't veto.
Right. Well, that's my point. And that he was pushing against that, that there was, I mean, it seems to me that it's conceivable there was a lot of money trying to, maybe behind the scenes that was trying to work against that. And then it ended up leading into some of these congressional seats.
I mean, my friend Christine Pellegrino, who flipped Trump District 40 points 4 months after Trump was elected and she became an assemblywoman. And then the Republicans came all in and the Democrats abandoned her. I mean, I'm just going to, whatever, she can say what she wants to say, but I'll tell you my perspective. Democrats were like, oh, we don't want to fight Republicans, and they abandoned her. And as a result, she lost her assembly seat, and she's now running in a Senate district that leans more Democratic against a Republican who is like, meh, whatever, milquetoast. She's a teacher. She's been organizing with the teachers movement and the environmental movement. The teachers union did not support her. They supported her Republican opponent. So that just tells you a little bit about what's happening in Democratic politics. Bernie Sanders, AOC, endorsed Christine Pellegrino. She flipped a Trump district. She's an actual teacher. She's not a politician. She's from the district. She has name ID. It's a Democratic leaning district, and the teachers union supported the Republican. And let's remember, even if that Republican voted a little bit with the Democrats on issues related to teachers and education funding, the entire makeup of the Senate, leaning Republican, basically held funding hostage to public school. It was
right.
The IDC. So that just shows you like why we need to delve into the details of how this stuff works when her own union didn't support her.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I know she wouldn't say that, but I think that's despicable.
Yeah.
Which side are you on?
Which side are you on? I will repeat it, as is the way. I'm starting to lose it. Okay, so bad news and then good news. So California's Prop 22 looks like the Uber, Lyft, rideshare companies have sufficiently turned their employees into independent contractors, stripping them of benefits. So
is it possible though that result can come in at this early? I mean, doesn't California?
Washington Post called it.
And Reuters.
Still a lot of vote left out, but yeah, they're calling it early.
So
anecdotally, friends in California said the assault in terms of like advertising and everything was just overwhelming.
It's so much money.
Everyone said it was like it's impossible that it could not pass.
We're in New York and we understand how big party Democratic machines operate, so that doesn't shock me at all. But the good news is, obviously, we touched on it, legal weed in New Jersey, but also I think it was legal weed or decriminalization in Montana, and then shrooms in DC, as we touched on, and heroin and meth were decriminalized, the possession of it in Oregon. So obviously drug decriminalization and policy reform on that in that area is quite popular across the board.
And that education measure that we were talking about before in Arizona, it passed. So that's very good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Sam, I mean, have you seen anything like this before?
Well, I mean, I'm not even clear on what we're seeing, to be honest with you. Like, there's, it is on some level just a, on some level it is a continued extension of what we have seen, which is there is a hyperpolarization in this country, and it is almost as if I feel like the polarization feeds on itself, and in some respects, I feel like when you get to a certain critical mass, it begins to get exponentially even more polarized, right? So that those are the results that we're getting in Long Island, where you have already sort of like very fertile ground for the Trump. I mean, let's face it. If there's any place in the country that is more suited to Trumpism than parts of Long Island, I don't know what it is, right? I mean, it is when you think about what Trump is in his essence, he is an extension of right-wing talk radio. And so much of that mentality emanates from Long Island.
We'll explain that. they're based there, literally.
They're literally based there. I mean, that's where like folks like Hannity and like all the Fox people, they all have like, their mansions out in Long Island, not in the Hamptons necessarily, but in parts of Long Island.
Hannity, he's on the, waterside mansion there out on the North Shore of Long Island.
Yes. I mean,
Sort of Bill, whatever his name is from Fox
Bill O'Reilly. I mean,
no, Bill, the communications director for the White House, who was the
Stepien.
Yeah. The guy who was like, whatever. Trump, he like headed Fox News. Sorry, like to go down the rabbit hole. But.
Yeah, I mean, that is it is a sort of like classic resent of like urban. There's a quality of it that is like there's parts of Massachusetts that this reminds me of too, where it's like sort of like suburban. It's not quite, it's a suburban, upper middle class, I think is probably the best way to put it. And there is a real, like visceral anger towards the city.
Like Sopranos. It's the Sopranos
exactly.
mode.
I mean, I can tell you that like when I lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Cambridge used to be, a much more, I think, interesting place in some respects. There was rent control there for a long time, certainly when I was there. And the most terrifying thing in the world was to see like a Chevy Nova full of like suburban white kids who would invariably come into like Cambridge to beat up fags. That would be their like that was their thing.
No, I mean, look, like Long Island is,
and that to me is like what Long Island is.
Yeah,
like. That same sort of like attitude, like cultural, like just sort of.
There's a lot of old school Italian families on Long Island, I guess. Like I'm not trying to, it's more, and then there's also a lot of preppy Republican types.
I mean, Massachusetts is very much like that too. And I hope I didn't offend anybody by saying that, but I mean, I'm trying to capture like this sort of like the attitude of these people and it was, and that is, I think, very sort of Trumpian. And so, I think you hit a certain number, and on some level, like, again, the conservative movement is driven by aggrievement. And at one point you hit a critical mass, and that aggrievement becomes sort of like, I don't know, it actually becomes like fuel for itself. It's almost like it becomes like, like the self-licking ice cream cone. I don't know. That's just a theory as to why you would have certain pockets that COVID spiked here. More Trump, please. Right? Like
Trump. Speaking of more Trump, he's tweeting now. Here's a tweet.
Great.
After the polls are closed?
What?
Jeez. That's
polls.
The polls? He's attacking the polls?
The Polish? I didn't know. I thought that was his base vote in Ohio.
Good thing they voted.
That's the real Trump too. I didn't fall for a fake one. That's the 87 million. I mean, if you want to do a coup, do a spell check. I mean,
right. And why are you capitalizing?
He capitalizes random things. He wants to, have the polls come to life and put on a red MAGA hat. So he personifies them.
Let me take a call. Hold on one second.
I'm going to run to the bathroom.
Okay, please. Calling from a 512 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Parts of Long Island, I don't know what it is.
Oh,
right?
a little bit. 512. 512.
Think about what Trump is.
512.
He is.
Ugh, I can't hear you. 512. 512. 512.
Like emanating. 512. We're here.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Jim?
Hello?
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 Hello? Who's this?
You're so nice.
The intern, how are you doing?
What's that?
This is Noah, your intern. How's it going?
Noah, how are you?
I am a little disheartened tonight, but it's been fun keeping up with you guys. How are you doing?
I mean, come on, Noah. How do you think
Yeah,
we're
it's a
doing?
little rough.
Oh, you could tell.
It's a little rough.
It's a little rough.
It's a little rough.
And how is it going? Does everybody remember? Did we do like the Ask the Intern segments with you, Noah?
We did. I remember that was like my big time to talk about like thorium nuclear reactors in terms of energy policy. That was my big break. Back in the undergrad days.
And how are things going? How's
They're
your
good.
folks?
They're doing well. They're helping me get through my thesis right now.
Wow.
I'm applying to doctoral programs soon, which is exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah. And things will be hopefully better going forward.
Well, Noah, great to hear from you. Say hi to your folks for us.
Absolutely. I just want to say hi. Congratulations on the 10 years. Emma, welcome to the show. I've been following you on Twitter for a while, and I'm excited you're going to be joining the cast.
Well, I'm afraid she stepped out for a moment, but I will relate that to her.
I'll speak on her behalf.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. All right, folks, please. I think we got to let folks get off the phone. I mean, we have people who've been on for hours. All right, I'm going to take this call just because the 200 minutes. I think that's a lot of dedication. Calling from a 269 area code. It also costing me a fortune to have people hold on the line this line. Calling from a 269 area code. Whoop. 269. I've had reports that we're having trouble with the sound. I am so sorry. Devin Nunes leaving by 149 votes.
Did you see this? Nate Cohn tweets something out. I don't know if I buy this. He says Arizona's a real mess. The first mail-in drop was D+2 by registration or so. The final electoral will be R +3-4. The election day voting trickling in by night will be very Trump. I don't know if after that, the late mail ballots typically down, but this year outstanding absentees were R by registration. That's not, I just think he's wrong on that because mail-in voting has been a thing in Arizona for over a decade. I mean, it's 70% of the electorate turns out with mail-in. I think that's why they were able to call it for Dems, but that's irresponsible by Nate Cohn to make that comment that they're going to like switch it back.
So wait a second.
16 minutes ago, after they called Arizona for Biden.
Wow.
I think that's irresponsible. And this is why I need to get people on the ground.
So wait, he's trying to create some type of narrative where you would uncall Arizona essentially?
Yep.
So is Fox News the only place that's called it so far?
I think so. You know, maybe that's the case, but I don't think it's based on his. I don't know right now. Like my mind, like I have no idea. But his reasoning is not correct. This is a state that is extremely conditioned to mail-in voting on both sides, especially the right wing. So it's not like the right wing isn't showing up for mail-in voting. And in-person voting, you know, I have family members, and granted, but these were in swing districts. There weren't lines around the corner today for in-person voting in these swing districts in Tucson, for instance.
Do you think that some of the polling issues could be attributed to an overestimation of how many of the mail-in votes were going to be blue?
Possibly, but I don't think so in Arizona because I think they're conditioned to doing mail-in voting. There's a system, like there's a reason why voter suppression didn't work in Arizona. And it's because it was Republican over. I mean, like this is how Doug Ducey won, was mail-in voting. Like,
oh, I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack.
I saw something that Georgia stopped counting and will resume in the morning.
Well,
there's any time to be a capitalist.
Don't they realize that we're still doing the goddamn show? All right, well,
hour 13.
We should probably wrap up. We're going to maybe we'll start a little bit late tomorrow. Guys, do you have a problem with that? I mean, if we're not,
I don't have a problem with that.
We're not going to be, having to deliver to the Peacock app. I mean, we're confirmed on that though, right? Brendan, do we have that in writing?
No, no call.
That was a phone call.
They didn't want to run all 12 hours.
I sold them hard on it. I said, this is the best 12 hours you're ever going to get from anything.
Oh, Joy Reid was talking, oh my God, earlier tonight. She was like, I really think the wine moms are going to really influence the election.
I would actually like to watch MSNBC tomorrow. That might be the thing to watch.
Folks, I'm sorry we're not going to get to your calls. I apologize. But we obviously we can't.
Let me just add this one thing that ABC is saying, that apparently only 16% of mail-in votes have been counted in Michigan. And I don't know if this is apparently a very low number, if at all, in Wisconsin. So we can keep the faith in that area.
Well, I mean, I think the big thing is going to be Georgia, frankly, and if Biden wins Georgia, it takes a lot of pressure off, it seems, because then he needs Michigan and Wisconsin, and Nevada. But I think Nevada, I don't know. Have we heard anything about Nevada? It's hard for me to imagine that Trump is going to win Nevada, but.
If he wins Georgia, he can lose Pennsylvania and win either Michigan or Wisconsin.
Oh, is that right?
I was playing with the map.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
If he wins Georgia, he can lose Pennsylvania and either Wisconsin or Michigan in the map I was playing with.
Okay.
But that's presuming Nevada win and Nebraska second.
Yeah. Yes.
In right
yeah.
Now.
Well, did Biden just speak?
Yeah, to honking.
Did we get any? Is it worth playing or no?
Donald Trump just said he was going to make a big statement tonight. A big win.
Biden says we're going to win Pennsylvania, and he says, I'm here to tell you we believe we're on track to win this election.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to do this with Trump going to make his also they're going to steal it statement soon. He re-upped with the spelling correction, his polls tweet.
Oh, so
still capitalizing polls, though.
He corrected his typo.
Still capitalizing it.
Oh my God. I didn't realize he tweeted out that video of.
Here's Biden getting out ahead of Trump from declaring victory or saying that Biden's going to steal it.
Wow, no.
Look. They're censoring it.
Wait, what's this?
It looks like Twitter might be pulled down the Trump tweet. I don't know if that's confirmed, but some of this content shared in this tweet is disputed and might be misleading about an election or other civic process. Damn.
Yep.
That's.
Here's the Biden, by the way.
All right, let's do this Biden.
You know, we could know the results as early as tomorrow morning, but it may take a little longer. As I've said all along, it's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people. But I'm optimistic about this outcome. And I want to thank every one of you who came out and voted in this election. And by the way, Chris Coons and the Democrats, congratulations here in Delaware.
The honking.
Your favorite senator.
Is still stupid.
Katie Pavlich, who is a Fox News contributor and a right-wing commentator.
Oh, yeah.
Just spoke to AZ Governor Ducey's office. There are at least 900,000 votes outstanding that haven't been counted, about half of Maricopa. With every update, they say it's breaking significantly towards Trump 2-1. Doesn't mean a Trump win, but that's still a lot of uncounted. I definitely disagree with all that because I saw the returns on Maricopa and where those returns were coming from. But if the Trump campaign is like, that's what they're resorting to, I do think that there's a little desperation, and maybe they're seeing something. Because you have to see through all these lines and these tweets, right?
Right. I mean, because what they're trying to do at this point is to pursue that original strategy of casting as much doubt so that if it's close, it's within like sort of like a certain safe harbor distance, as it were. I don't want to conflate, that term, but if they're close enough to shore, maybe they've got a chance. And
also,
so to keep Arizona and to keep particularly Arizona, I think is hugely important, because if Biden wins Arizona, then he wins Georgia and he can afford to lose one or two of those Rust Belt states.
Why are they talking to Doug Ducey about this and not Katie Hobbs, who's the Secretary of State, who is a Democrat?
Why is Susan Collins dancing to Still the One in the middle of a parking lot? Anyway.
I hope she's not still the one.
But I do love that song.
I hope she did not won.
McSally got crushed, man.
All right. Well, folks, McSally got crushed.
Crushed.
That's good.
11 points at least.
It's just like this disparity, right? Like, why McSally and not?
And she distanced herself. We talked about this in the show a few weeks ago. She was distancing herself from Trump.
Well, she was trying a little bit late. I mean, that was a little bit late.
But his message, she wasn't. It was weird.
Right.
She was using Trump's message, but not his name.
I don't think that Democrats can extrapolate or copy anything that was done in states like Arizona in the long term.
No. I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to be, fairly unique. Well, folks, we did it. We did 13 hours today.
Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. It seems like a good time to stop the celebration of our anniversary. I mean, since we are now like into really now it's the 10-year anniversary from the second day of the show. I guess we could continue to do that every day. But I've got to record the AM Quickie tonight.
Oh my God.
So, Matt, Brendan, great job tonight. Kyle, thank you for hanging in the whole time. Jamie, thank you. Emma, welcome to the show. This was a very auspicious, incidentally, we do this every Tuesday.
Yes, I can't wait.
12 hours every Tuesday.
Right. I can't wait.
I only get like 2 hours on Tuesdays.
That's because I haven't written into your contract. We had the extra 10 hours.
Right. I asked Sam that, if I was going to join Majority Report on my contract, I need to be on air.
12 hours every Tuesday.
Right, exactly.
Nomi, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Now, it's so early for you now. You're just...
Oh, it's like 11 o'clock. I'm going to go live. Who wants to come on my channel? Emma, are you still up? You can come on. Whoever wants.
We'll see. I mean, I'm probably going to be up later, doom scrolling through Twitter. So we'll see.
I can tell you that Michael, if you're listening in some way, I know that you're excited that you didn't have to do this 12-hour show. He would.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think if he
would have been like.
Yeah, I mean,
he was always trying to get me to fit it. He was like, "Nomi, can you fill in for me?" And I'm like, "I don't. That's not my." He was always like trying to find a way.
There's a chance he was watching tonight, but I think he probably dipped out hours ago.
Exactly. He's like, "Hey, look, it's not. Do we need to? Don't take a call.
I'll see you tomorrow, dude.
Don't take a call." Well. All right. Well, thank you, folks, and thank you. For those of you who are still with us now, thank you so much for supporting the show. And we'll be back tomorrow. We may start a little bit late, but not too late. Maybe we'll start 1 or something like that. I don't know. We can do the. We'll start a little bit late and do an abbreviated show, just give you an update. And in the event that Biden's declared the winner in the morning, or Donald Trump is, I'll hop on YouTube maybe and say, Biden was declared the winner. Did you not know that? Why? But thank you so much. We have the best audience that one could ever possibly hope for. And here's looking forward to another, maybe like 6 years, 10 years. I don't know. I wouldn't say 10 necessarily. Maybe. I don't know. But thank you again.
Don't want to overpromise.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Let's manage expectations. We made it this far.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get
Stop
there.
Stop the meeting.
I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know